This was the second time the girl had been beheaded. Yet, with the fall of the blade, she found herself back in her own bed. Just a short while ago, she had woken up to find herself transported into the novel she'd been reading. And she hadn't transmigrated into the beloved heroine, but into the viciously executed Villainess. She tried countless methods to return to reality, but each time, she couldn't escape the tragic fate of execution. Even more tragically, she didn't return to reality after being executed. When she first arrived in this world, she thought it was all a dream. She dreamt of the very novel she loved most. She even looked in the mirror, marveling that Alinda actually looked exactly as she'd imagined. Even the maid's lines were identical to the book. It was all so thrilling. This dream began at the start of the novel with the academy entrance ceremony. However, after being punished with running at the academy, Alinda actually felt pain in her legs. After a full week of pain, she finally understood. This wasn't a dream. It was transmigration. So the question now was, how could she return to the real world? If it were a dream, it wouldn't matter who she was. But if this wasn't a dream, things were different. After all, Alinda was the novel's wicked Villainess. She was executed in the bloom of her youth by the male lead. Should she follow the original plot and await death, or completely ignore the plot and live life her own way? After much deliberation, she realized there was only one way back to reality, and that was death. So she chose to follow the original story and be the wicked Villainess. She would be executed and then return to reality. The novel's heroine, Serena, was a beloved girl, beautiful, kind, and pure of heart. Alinda's family, the Morphusants, were the Empire's foremost ducal family. To maintain control, the royal family had arranged a marriage between Alinda and the Crown Prince. Unless a major event like treason occurred, the engagement couldn't be broken. But during this time, the Crown Prince fell in love with Serena. This was something Alinda couldn't prevent, so she could only obediently follow the plot, bullying Serena until her own execution. However, the real Serena was simply too charming, too kind. Alinda couldn't bring herself to bully her, but she had no choice. To return to reality, she had to harden her heart and act like the Alinda in the original story, the wicked Villainess. Because Serena had stolen Alinda's fiancé and might later seize the power of the Morphusant family, the Morphusants indulged Alinda's mistreatment of Serena. Finally, when Alinda scratched Serena's cheek, the Crown Prince, without hesitation, ordered Alinda's execution. Her father and brothers, who had used her as a shield, cruelly abandoned her at the execution grounds. It was finally over. Alinda shouted her last line, "Serena, I hate you." The executioner's axe fell, blood splattered. Yet, even then, Alinda didn't return to reality. The moment the axe fell, she woke up in her bed. Her neck was still intact, but the sharp touch of the blade and the momentary pain were vividly clear. The maid's familiar voice echoed, "Miss Morphusant, it's the first day of school. Why are you only just waking up?" The beginning of the novel. This time, Alinda decided to shed the villain label and live a peaceful life. She wouldn't bully Serena anymore. Even if Serena still stole her fiancé, she would still bless them. However, things didn't go as planned. She was still imprisoned by the Crown Prince. His reason? "I don't need two wives." Serena doesn't like it. In her cell, Alinda was speechless. Couldn't she escape her fate, even like this? Since she was going to be executed anyway, she might as well say what she wanted. She glared at the Crown Prince's back and cursed, "You madman. With your reckless actions, this kingdom is sure to fall." The Crown Prince turned to Alinda and laughed derisively. He taunted her, "It seems death is approaching, and you've completely lost your mind. But what can be done? I've already made a deal with your family." At that moment, Alinda instantly understood. It seemed she had been used by her family once again. When she opened her eyes again, Alinda was back at the beginning of the novel. Her maid, Annie, tidied the room while urging her to get up. Even while dressing her hair, Annie's words were the same as before. This was the third time Alinda had heard this nagging. The words were like lines from a game tutorial. Even if some small details of the plot changed, certain words would always remain the same, just like Alinda's tragic ending in this novel. Ultimately, it was all because of that damn Crown Prince. Of course, the treacherous Maleficente family also played a part. These people just happened to be her fiancé and family. Since she couldn't change her fate of death, why not live recklessly? This time, Alinda decided to take control of her own life. Before dying, she would do everything she wanted to do. The first thing was to refuse to see the father who had used her. When the maid dragged Alinda to greet her father, Alinda stood at the door, annoyed. Her father called her over. Alinda scoffed and retorted arrogantly, "I don't want to go over there." Her father was stunned. What kind of tone is that? Elinda, completely letting loose, replied, Do I not want to listen to you? You even forgot your only daughter's entrance ceremony. Elinda was certain that even with this tone, her father wouldn't make things difficult for her. After all, she was the only woman in the family and the crown prince's fiancée. Sure enough, her father awkwardly explained that he was just too busy. Elinda waved her hand dismissively that it's fine. I don't mind you continuing to be busy, but my monthly allowance can be reduced. After saying that, she hummed a tune and walked out of the room, leaving her father standing there dumbfounded. She shed her villain label and lived freely, but in the end, she was still executed by the crown prince. So this time, she decided to live recklessly, according to her own desires, and enjoy the life of a duke's daughter. The carriage arrived at Elinda's school. It was the familiar scene. It was the familiar conversation. This was her third time attending the academy's entrance ceremony. It felt like taking the college entrance exam 3 times and then being reborn right after the results came out. After bidding farewell to the maid who had brought her to school, seeing that there was still time before the entrance ceremony, Elinda went to the central fountain of the academy. This was where she had bullied Serena for the first time. Thinking of the beautiful and kind Serena, Elinda felt a flicker of admiration. She actually really liked Serena. Before, she had only bullied her to follow the plot. In Elinda's eyes, that crown prince wasn't even worthy of polishing Serena's shoes. Since she had chosen to live as she pleased in this life, why not become good friends with the lovely Serena? As Elinda was lost in thought, someone suddenly tapped her on the shoulder. Turning around, she saw that it was Serena. According to the original plot, Serena should have been the last to arrive at the banquet hall. Why was she at the academy so early? Elinda was momentarily at a loss, even stuttering a little. This didn't fit Elinda's character. But then she thought, hadn't she decided to live recklessly? What did it matter if it didn't fit her character? Thinking this, Elinda turned and asked Serena kindly, Is something the matter? Starting with Serena politely asking for directions. The two girls became close friends from this moment on. Serena also learned that Elinda was the crown prince's fiancée and said that Elinda must be a kind and good person. Elinda felt that being with Serena was wonderful. The first time she was reborn, they were enemies. The second time, although not enemies, their relationship was still a complicated one. But in this life, they became good friends in less than an hour. Unconsciously, the two of them walked to the banquet hall. Serena suggested that since it was still early before the banquet, they should take a stroll around. Elinda happily agreed, but suggested they drop off their luggage first. However, as soon as Elinda pushed open the door to the banquet hall, she met the gaze of Crown Prince Noah. Elinda hadn't expected that the first person she would encounter here would be him. Noah naturally recognized Elinda as well. He put on an arrogant air, expressing surprise at Elinda's appearance. Hearing the commotion, Serena couldn't help but ask Elinda if someone was inside. Elinda gave an awkward laugh. No one. It must be a dog barking somewhere. Noah was instantly stunned. She called me a dog? However, before he could react, Elinda slammed the door shut and pulled Serena away. That felt good. The look on the crown prince's face must have been priceless. Anyway, I can't die before my appointed death date, no matter what I do. Might as well take this opportunity to let loose. I've decided to live according to my own wishes. In this life, not only did she not bully the heroine, she even became good friends with her. After cursing out the crown prince at the entrance to the banquet hall, Elinda pulled Serena away. Looking at the beautiful and kind Serena, Elinda felt that the scumbag crown prince wasn't even worthy of licking Serena's shoes. She wanted to change Serena's fate of falling in love with the crown prince from the original story. But it seemed that she couldn't change the course of the story on her own. Would she still be eliminated for various reasons in the future, and then fall into this cycle of death and rebirth again? As Elinda was pondering, Serena asked her if something was bothering her. She had sensed Elinda's gloomy mood. The novel mentioned that Serena had a special ability. She could read other people's emotions. It was because of this that she was able to sense the crown prince's inner feelings. And that's how the two of them grew closer. Faced with Serena's concern, Elinda told her that she was fine and not to worry. Serena once again praised Elinda for being a good person and gave her a flower. Looking at the kind Serena, Elinda was once again moved to tears. More and more people were arriving at the academy. The banquet was about to begin. A wave of worry rose in Alinda's heart. Their story was about to officially begin. Serena would meet all the male leads in the banquet hall, and she would also have a special encounter with Crown Prince Noah. A few minutes later, the two arrived at the banquet hall. It was already full of people. Everyone looked toward Serena and Alinda at the door. Embarrassed, Alinda quickly urged Serena to find a place to sit. However, before they reached their seats, they bumped into the Crown Prince walking towards them. Alinda suddenly felt that this was different from a novel. Was he planning to approach Serena this way? Unexpectedly, the Crown Prince grabbed Alinda's arm and asked through gritted teeth, "How dare you do that to me and just walk away?" Faced with the Crown Prince's behavior in public, Alinda felt he must be crazy. She was too weak to break free. Serena, behind her, suddenly called out Alinda's name. This caught the Crown Prince's attention. When her eyes met the Crown Prince's crimson pupils, Serena instantly realized he was a member of the royal family, someone she couldn't afford to offend. She could only silently cheer for Alinda in her heart. The next second, the Crown Prince unceremoniously dragged Alinda towards the door. Alinda hadn't yet realized that the plot was already deviating from the original story. The third time Alinda was reborn, she decided to act recklessly. The first thing she did was defy her manipulative father. Then she went to school and became friends with the heroine she had bullied 800 times before. Immediately after, she scolded the Crown Prince. Not only that, but she also had to find a way to change the plot of Serena falling in love with the scumbag. Before the entrance ceremony began, the two arrived at the banquet hall. This was the place where Serena would meet all the male leads for the first time. However, the direction of the story seemed to be going off track. It should have been the scene where the Crown Prince and Serena meet. But now, the Crown Prince was dragging Alinda, refusing to let go. He was still angry that Alinda had scolded him earlier. And Alinda, because she was too weak to break free, could only be dragged away by the Crown Prince. Faced with the Crown Prince's tyranny, Alinda was not to be outdone. "This jerk can't kill me here anyway." He dragged her all the way out of the banquet hall before finally releasing her. By now, Alinda's wrist was red and swollen from the Crown Prince's grip. But the Crown Prince didn't seem to think he had gone too far. He even asked Alinda if she knew what she had done wrong. Alinda didn't admit to any wrongdoing. She calmly patted her arm and told the Crown Prince, "The entrance ceremony is about to begin. Dragging me out like this is the real mistake." The arrogant Crown Prince threatened Alinda with beheading. This didn't scare Alinda, who had an omniscient perspective. She bluntly told him that he was thrown here by the Emperor because he had caused trouble. "And you still want to use your royal authority to threaten others?" The Crown Prince was startled. "How did you know that?" Alinda didn't answer him. Instead, she held up 3 fingers and told him, "For the next 3 years, you won't receive any help from the royal family. I know that very well." The Crown Prince scratched his head, feeling a little uneasy, but he still stubbornly told Alinda, "If you keep defying me, something unfortunate might happen to you at graduation." Unexpectedly, Alinda was even more indifferent. She said, "Well, in that case, I'll definitely make sure to defy you during this time. I'm doomed either way." She then leaned closer to the Crown Prince and asked, "Will you agree to break off our engagement then?" The Crown Prince looked awkward. "It seems you really want to break off our engagement." Before Alinda could answer, she suddenly heard the announcement for the start of the entrance ceremony. She quickly turned and told the Crown Prince she was leaving. Before leaving, she didn't forget to sarcastically ask, "You know the way to the banquet hall, right?" She ran off before the Crown Prince could react. The Crown Prince stared at Alinda's retreating figure in disbelief. He thought Alinda must be crazy. But the Crown Prince was, after all, of royal blood. Even at the academy, he received special treatment. The next day, Alinda was punished with duck walking for being late to the entrance ceremony. However, the Crown Prince was exempted from punishment due to his royal privilege. Panting, Alinda swore she would do everything in her power to make the Crown Prince suffer. Looking up, she suddenly saw someone else being punished. Alinda knew that the boy being punished was also one of the male leads in the novel. She hadn't expected to meet him here. In the novel, he only interacted with Serena. He was a loyal knight who silently protected Serena, a tragic figure who couldn't confess his feelings to the heroine until the very end. This was Alinda's favorite character when she read the novel. Since she had already decided to act recklessly in this life, she might as well go up and say hello. She had already become sworn enemies with her fiancé, the Crown Prince. The person before her was her favorite character from the novel, Leonard. So, it seemed there was still one male lead candidate who hadn't appeared yet. According to the storyline, Leonard was Serena's loyal follower and had no interaction with Alinda. However, Alinda still decided to go up and talk to him. But as soon as she said a word, Leonard just walked forward on his own. Having already done half a lap of duck walking, Alinda was exhausted. To catch up with her favorite character, she used a body-strengthening spell. Then, she quickly caught up to Leonard and once again asked to chat. Leonard looked at Alinda, who had caught up, and couldn't help but wonder how she had recovered her stamina so quickly. It seems you exercise regularly. He then asked her if she was the recipient of the swordsmanship scholarship, because only those who trained diligently would have such good stamina. Alinda suddenly remembered Leonard's personality. He liked honest people and hated those who played tricks. If she told him she had recovered so quickly because she had used magic, Leonard's Halgandu towards her would definitely plummet. Alinda could only guiltily tell him that she walked like a duck for 2 hours every day, which was why her stamina was so good. Looking at Leonard's serious gaze, Alinda suddenly remembered that he also hated liars. Could he have seen through her? Unexpectedly, Leonard told Alinda, with such good stamina, it would be a waste not to learn swordsmanship. Alinda was momentarily dumbfounded. How did the conversation shift to swordsmanship? The novel never mentioned him having slow reflexes. Upon learning that Alinda's magic was only average, Leonard suggested she switch to the mandatory swordsmanship class at the end of the term. Alinda hastily refused. She really didn't know how to use a sword. But Leonard, uncharacteristically, said, I can teach you swordsmanship. If you undergo comprehensive training, you can definitely become an excellent swordswoman. Faced with Leonard's enthusiastic invitation, Alinda pretended to be exhausted, feigning shortness of breath. Leonard immediately became serious. Don't try to fool me. I know you're lying. Alinda could only inwardly click her tongue. At that moment, Serena's voice suddenly came from behind. She had come to give Alinda a towel. Leonard stood to the side, silently watching the two of them. Alinda suddenly realized, why hadn't Leonard left yet? Was it because of Serena? But Leonard didn't greet Serena. Instead, he snatched the handkerchief from Alinda's hand. He wiped his own sweat with it and once again asked Alinda to learn swordsmanship from him. A frantic Alinda decided to tell Leonard about her earlier use of magic, letting him know that her stamina wasn't actually that good. However, she forgot she had a severe weakness for handsome faces. When Alinda looked up and met Leonard's handsome face, she immediately changed her mind. She promptly agreed with an eager expression to Leonard's request to teach her swordsmanship. Leonard immediately made plans with her to start training the next day at the same location. Alinda enthusiastically agreed. After all, no matter what, Leonard would eventually fall in love with Serena. A little entanglement with her now wouldn't change anything, right? His fiancée. But she just had to offend the Crown Prince to death. The second male lead was indifferent to her, so she just had to become good friends with him. In the academy hallway, Serena asked Alinda with concern if agreeing to learn swordsmanship from Leonard was a bit impulsive. She might collapse from exhaustion before long. Alinda laughed awkwardly and said she was fine, telling Serena not to worry. She also told Serena that she had just chatted with Leonard and felt that he was quite a nice person. Serena could only advise Alinda not to overexert herself and not to push herself too hard. As the two girls were talking, the classroom bell rang. Alinda said it was the warning bell and that it was time to go back to class. Serena was surprised that Alinda was so knowledgeable about the academy's affairs. Alinda explained that it was because her brother also attended school here. Serena suddenly remembered that she had bumped into someone with golden pupils several times today. And golden pupils are a symbol of the Maleficent family. He winked at me as soon as he saw me, she told Alinda. Sometimes he even blew me kisses. So was your brother. Alinda felt embarrassed for her brother, William. She could only laugh and tell Serena, I apologize on his behalf. Class was about to start. The students had all returned to their seats, waiting for the lesson to begin. However, someone suddenly called Alinda from the doorway. It was Walls from Class C. He stammered Alinda's name. Teach the Crown Prince is looking for you. Alinda froze. Shouldn't he be looking for Serena? Why me? Was the plot developing properly? But she immediately agreed. I just happen to have something to say to him as well. Alinda roughly pushed open the door to Class C, instantly attracting the attention of the students. Everyone started murmuring, she's the Crown Prince's fiancée. Elinda said loudly, "Is the Crown Prince so great? If he has business with me, shouldn't he come personally?" The Crown Prince was also visibly taken aback. He then retorted sarcastically, "I sent for you because I was worried your feet weren't working. Now it seems both legs are still functioning." Elinda retorted, "Thanks to someone, I just got back from corporal punishment. But I hope next time, Your Highness, you can join me in receiving punishment." She then slammed the door and left, leaving behind a group of onlookers. Elinda muttered to herself as she walked back, "If he's not convinced, he should come find me himself, right?" She didn't expect a figure to block her path. The person greeted her directly. "Hello, Elinda. Your speech just now was truly applause-worthy." Elinda pondered what this person wanted. The person said confidently, "We're classmates. You would not know me." Of course, Elinda knew him. He was one of the male lead candidates in the novel, and also the great magician, Luke Asta. Now that Elinda had said her name, Luke smiled even wider. "That I knew you recognized me. After all, I'm a celebrity wherever I go." The original plot was starting to crumble. The male lead and second male lead, who were supposed to pursue Serena, were currently oblivious to her. Luke, a great magician in the same class, was also after Elinda to be his partner. But Elinda didn't want to get entangled with him and frankly told him to move as they were going to be late. However, Luke continued to stick to her with a playful smile. "Well then, I'll be late with you." Looking at the guy in front of her who was always causing trouble and nicknamed the Weirdo, Elinda suggested, "How about we both amicably head back to the classroom?" Luke turned his body to the side. "Then you have to promise me one thing." Seeing Elinda's look of disgust, Luke quickly explained, "This is beneficial to you, not harmful." Looking at Luke's smiling face, a thought crossed Elinda's mind. This guy couldn't be asking me to help him get together with Serena, could he? Thinking of this, Elinda sighed. And no matter what, Serena is also. At the same time, Luke said, "Be my partner." For a moment, both of them were stunned, their minds filled with question marks. The air seemed to suddenly solidify. The next second, Luke burst out laughing. "You didn't think I wanted you to play matchmaker, did you? Do I look like someone who'd ask others to do that kind of thing for me?" "Be my partner," Luke continued to urge Elinda. "You know, to improve the effectiveness of magic training, we ordinary students have to choose a partner for 3 years. Elinda had no patience to listen to him and decisively waved her hand, rejecting Luke. At this moment, Elinda only wanted to partner with Serena. Watching Elinda turn and leave, Luke still didn't give up. He caught up to Elinda and told her to think about it carefully. Elinda only said, "We're going to be late. I have to go." After saying that, she shook off Luke and strode forward. Suddenly, Elinda felt the aura of magic coming from behind her. She decisively turned around, ready to block it with her own magic without hesitation. But she suddenly found herself unable to move. It was a binding spell. She heard Luke explain, once magic is activated, only the caster or someone of a higher rank can break it. Elinda's heart skipped a beat. Damn, I was careless. Luke continued to relentlessly demand that Elinda be his partner. In magic class, Elinda couldn't understand the changes in other people. It was understandable that their changes were due to her actions deviating from the original story. But what was going on with Luke? She had never interacted with him before. And how did he know she could use magic? When she turned to look at Luke, he was still asking her to be his partner. For the entire class, Luke kept muttering beside Elinda, "Be my partner. Be my partner." Well, if I'm destined to be executed, I might as well do whatever I want. Unexpectedly, after she gave up, various male leads started clinging to her, even almost getting into a fight over her. The crown prince, whom she had scolded, would occasionally show up in front of her. The second male lead, who was supposed to pursue the heroine, kept asking for her insights. Even Luke, the great magician whom she had never interacted with, was relentlessly pursuing her. After magic class, Leonard came to the classroom to find Elinda, reminding her about their training after school. Elinda had just replied, "No problem," when Luke sarcastically remarked, "Trying to teach a magician swordsmanship? How stupid." Leonard seriously told Luke, Elinda's current physical foundation will definitely become stronger through training. Luke scoffed, "You still believe that?" The two disagreed and almost got into a fight. Elinda suddenly felt that the plot was developing in a strange direction. How come everyone had been revolving around her these past few days? Serena was clearly the heroine. 2 whole days had passed, and Luke was still following Alinda, trying to persuade her to be his partner. Even Serena couldn't help but ask curiously, why has Luke been clamoring to be your partner since the day before yesterday? Luke looked dumbfounded. Does there have to be a reason? Alinda turned her head and said, no. Even if I heard the reason, I would still reject you. Luke laughed. That's why I didn't say it. Alinda was speechless. Serena ignored him and started thinking about her homework. Watching Serena's thoughtful expression, Alinda couldn't help but be captivated by her cuteness. She turned to Luke, feeling a surge of pride. Luke, you must be charmed by her cuteness too, right? Unexpectedly, Luke had been staring at Alinda. Seeing Alinda turn towards him, Luke quickly asked, what's wrong? Do you want to be my partner now? After being rejected once again, Luke couldn't help but mutter, she wasn't even charmed by my handsome face. Alinda couldn't take it anymore. She slammed her hand on the table, stood up, and shouted, it's all your fault. Our group project is now down to just the 3 of us. Serena, while conducting an experiment, chatted with Alinda. How's the Crown Prince doing lately? I don't know what's wrong with him. Last time I passed by him, he seemed really distraught. Alinda scratched her head, equally confused. Suddenly, she caught a key piece of information. She immediately turned to Serena and asked, you passed by the Crown Prince, and he didn't stop you to say anything? Like ask your name? Serena chuckled. No, we don't know each other. And he's your fiancé. Why would he be interested in me? Alinda's face flushed with embarrassment, but Noah actually ignored Serena. How did the plot get so messed up? If that's really the case, then it means I might not die at 20. The Crown Prince. He could make me disappear without a trace at any moment. After giving up on following the plot, all the male leads started pursuing her. But Alinda wasn't happy, because with the plot's collapse, she suddenly realized the plot's a mess. This means I might not die at 20. I could even be killed by the Crown Prince at any time. While Alinda was agonizing over this, Serena, beside her, sensed her emotions. Then, taking Alinda's hand, she said caringly, Alinda, there's no need to worry about things that haven't happened yet. No matter what happens, I'll be with you. Faced with Serena's comfort, Alinda felt a surge of emotion, such a kind. Serena, in my past life, I was actually thinking about how to bully her every day. Then Alinda's mind cleared. Nothing has happened yet. The Crown Prince hasn't made a move. Maybe he really will be so heartbroken that he'll break off the engagement. And as if on cue, a voice called out to Alinda. The Crown Prince, with dark circles under his eyes, stood at the classroom door, saying he wanted to talk to her. Alinda nervously followed the Crown Prince. Walking through the school building, she kept reassuring herself there's nothing to be afraid of. This is the academy. Noah definitely won't do anything here. I've already lost my life twice. What else is there to be afraid of? Alinda tried to calm herself down. Suddenly, Luke breathed into her ear that you're going with your fiancé. But why are you so nervous? Are you two going to duel? I was a little worried, so I followed. Alinda shot Luke an annoyed look. Then she suddenly turned and asked him, Serena? Luke laughed. It seemed more interesting here. Looking at the shameless Luke, Alinda turned and shot a magic attack at him. Unexpectedly, Luke easily deflected it and sent it flying towards the Crown Prince. The magic attack hit the Crown Prince squarely on the head. Alinda gave Luke a look of approval that I'm very pleased with you this time. The Crown Prince rubbed his head where he'd been hit and turned to look at Alinda. He suddenly noticed the extra person behind her and asked, puzzled, and who are you? Alinda poked Luke in the stomach and said impatiently, don't mind him. He's just a lunatic. Luke grinned. That's right. Don't mind me. I'm a lunatic. Alinda was even more speechless. What's there to be proud of? It's not like I was complimenting you. Watching the two bicker, the Crown Prince's expression darkened. He turned directly to Alinda and said, ever since you caused that scene last time, my position has become quite ridiculous. You actually insulted the royal family in front of everyone. Don't tell me you're hoping I'll show mercy and let you off the hook. Looking at the Crown Prince's icy gaze, Alinda started thinking again. Does he want to execute me right here? He probably won't do anything rash before the end of the semester. That day, because of Alinda's previous insults, the Crown Prince called her in for another talk. Alinda was worried that he would attack her. But the more she thought about it, the angrier she became. If the Crown Prince hadn't been planning to get rid of her, none of this would have happened. At that moment, the Crown Prince started pushing her again. That I'll ask you one more time. Are you really crazy? Alinda shot back. What's it to you? You're going to get rid of me sooner or later anyway. The Crown Prince caught the key word. Why sooner or later? Elinda scoffed and muttered under her breath. Sharp ears, aren't they? Luke quickly asked, is he going to get rid of you just because of that incident? Elinda replied, even if it wasn't for that, he'd get rid of me eventually. Luke didn't understand. He just laughed at my, you two are really interesting. Then he turned to Linda and asked, do you regret saying those things to him now? Elinda shook her head vigorously. Not at all. Luke smiled and patted Elinda's head. That's what I like about you. The two completely ignored the person beside them. The Crown Prince, his anger steadily building, then started to berate Elinda, insulting the royal family. You know the price you have to pay, right? However, there seems to be a misunderstanding between us. If you can properly reflect on your actions within 3 years. Before the Crown Prince could finish, Elinda flipped him off. Get lost. Even Luke was stunned. Elinda, I'm really starting to like you more and more. Elinda looked at him with disgust. That I don't want you to like me. The Crown Prince, standing to the side, watched the two with an embarrassed expression. He thought Elinda had completely lost her mind. He continued to threaten Elinda, using the insult to the royal family as leverage. Elinda, undaunted, retorted, you want to threaten me with my family? The Crown Prince looked puzzled. You seem not at all worried about your father and brothers. Elinda replied, I don't care. Luke was still excitedly declaring his fondness for Elinda. Elinda turned and used magic on him. The Crown Prince asked curiously, I remember you never learned magic before. Luke was also surprised. So powerful without having learned magic. He immediately followed up by asking Elinda, how about partnering with me? Suddenly, a purple light emanated from around Elinda and Luke. It was contract magic. Luke said, my offer for you to be my partner also means recruiting you into the Magic Tower. You should know what that means, right? The Magic Tower acts as a check on the royal family. Neither side can harm the other. Elinda understood. If she partnered with Luke, she would become a member of the Magic Tower. It also meant the Crown Prince could never get rid of her. But she didn't understand. The Magic Tower only selected mages once every 20 years, and the requirements were extremely strict. Entering the Magic Tower was something she wouldn't even dare to dream of. She wondered why Luke would choose her. Luke, as if seeing through Elinda's thoughts, laughed and said, the current Magic Tower master doesn't dare to confront the Emperor. It's too boring without this kind of fun. So, our Magic Tower needs ambitious people like you. As long as you join the Magic Tower, even if your family is annihilated, you can still live well. The Crown Prince couldn't stand it anymore. He bluntly asked what kind of absurd reasoning that was. Elinda realized that if she agreed to Luke, she would no longer fear being executed by the Crown Prince. The story would be completely rewritten. In other words, she would no longer have to face death at 20. She could enjoy life freely. Thinking of this, she immediately agreed to partner with Luke. As the next Magic Tower Master, Luke granted Elinda the position of Magic Tower Mage. With the casting of the spell, the contract immediately took effect. Elinda looked at the Crown Prince with disdain at S.O. I don't have to hold back anymore, right? Luke took Elinda's hand and told her, it looks like you want to get rid of him right now. But I'm warning you, you can't get rid of him either. After that, Elinda finally no longer had to worry about being executed by the Crown Prince. The fate of dying at 20 was completely rewritten. Seeing that Elinda wanted to attack the Crown Prince on the spot, Luke quickly grabbed her hand. He told her that although the Crown Prince couldn't execute her, she couldn't get rid of him either. Elinda looked arrogantly at the Crown Prince. She said, is that so? Noah, since I can't get rid of you, then please lose yourself. Disappear from this world. As soon as Elinda finished speaking, Luke used teleportation magic to take her away. The Crown Prince was left standing there, unable to react. With a whoosh, the two appeared in a classroom. The teacher's large face appeared before them. Being late for class is one thing, but how can you use teleportation magic in the academy? You two, come to my office after class. Unsurprisingly, the magic teacher punished them with duck walks again. Elinda angrily questioned Luke, why did you have to teleport us to the classroom? As she spoke, Elinda twisted her foot and almost fell. Luckily, Luke caught her arm in time. Elinda looked up and saw Luke's smiling face. He said, why aren't you more careful? Seeing Elinda's aggrieved expression, Luke explained, because we were almost late for class. I wanted to get back quickly. Magic is really convenient. He then recommended Elinda used body strengthening magic. Elinda was speechless. This frivolous person was actually the next magic tower master. Finally finishing the laps, Elinda, without using magic, was too tired to stand up. At that moment, Serena ran over. She thoughtfully handed Elinda a handkerchief and asked with concern about her condition. As the two girls chatted animatedly, growing closer with each word, Luke could only sit awkwardly to the side, watching their affectionate display. Just then, the magic teacher arrived and, after adjusting their glasses, began lecturing Elinda. They told her that even though she was a daughter of the Maleficent family, such behavior wasn't acceptable at the academy. Elinda nodded obediently, then stood and whispered to Luke, "Didn't you just ask me why I don't use body-strengthening magic?" Before Luke could react, Elinda shouted, "Professor, you just used body-strengthening magic." After saying this, she grabbed Serena's hand and left. The magic teacher then began lecturing Luke, saying that even someone from the magic tower couldn't act so recklessly at the academy. As punishment, they made him walk 5 laps around the field like a duck and stated they would personally supervise him. Elinda glanced triumphantly at Luke and walked away happily with Serena. On their way back, Serena worriedly told Elinda, "I've been curious. Do you actually dislike me and are just forcing yourself to spend time with me?" Elinda quickly denied, in no way. "Serena, I really like you." As she spoke, she grasped Serena's hands with a sincere expression. After a few seconds, Serena happily replied, "Me too. I'm so glad we became friends." But Elinda still felt uneasy. She turned and pulled Serena along, saying she wanted to prove her sincerity. In the pastry shop, Elinda pointed at all the pastries and said, "Pick anything, one of everything. This is my sincerity to you, Serena." She didn't know how else to express herself, so she offered this simple gesture. Serena suggested they share the pastries with Luke, since he must be tired. Elinda disagreed, saying she knew Luke would immediately use magic to recover his stamina after running. Serena urged Elinda to be more considerate, reminding her that Luke was her partner. Elinda sighed and said, "I actually really wanted to be partners with you." She had planned to formally ask Serena after the magic exercise ended, but she hadn't expected Luke to tempt her with a magic tower. Joining the magic tower was also a way for Elinda to avoid death, but Serena didn't know this. With a melancholic expression, she said, "No matter how much you say you want to be partners with me, this is the situation you chose. A missed opportunity won't come again." Elinda scratched her neck. Serena was right. Elinda bought one of every pastry in the shop. On the way back, they ran into Reynard. Elinda greeted him enthusiastically, while Serena looked nervous. Reynard hesitated, then stiffly waved back. Elinda asked Reynard solicitously if he was there for sword training and if he had eaten. Reynard awkwardly apologized to Elinda, saying it was wrong of him to force her to learn swordsmanship. Elinda grasped Reynard's hand warmly and said it was all right, and that they should still see each other often even if she didn't practice swordsmanship. Then, Elinda turned excitedly to Serena. This way, she thought, Reynard and Serena's relationship could progress. Before Elinda could even try to connect them, Serena stepped forward and invited Reynard to share the pastries. At the table, Luke angrily called Elinda a traitor. Without even looking up, Elinda stuffed a pastry into his mouth. While chewing, Luke complained about how Elinda could abandon him. "And what's with this Reynard guy?" he asked Elinda, turning to her. "Don't you know mages and swordsmen are incompatible?" Elinda glanced sideways. Are magic swordsmen mages or swordsmen? Reynard replied seriously, "Magic swordsman has swordsman in it, so they should be swordsmen, right?" Luke sighed, "I can't believe I'm having lunch with this guy." Serena quickly intervened. "Well, who else do we have as friends besides each other?" Luke pointed at Reynard. "He and I are not friends." Elinda called him childish. The group sat together, sharing pastries and chatting about trivial things. Elinda thought how wonderful it was when the crown prince wasn't around. Meanwhile, Luke was still staring seriously at Elinda. Elinda wondered what his reaction meant. Luke stated plainly that he was still angry. Elinda chuckled, "Oh, that's why. I thought my laughing was bothering you." Because Elinda remembered, the crown prince from her past life had said, "Your laugh is really annoying." Luke noticed the change in Elinda's expression. He suddenly leaned closer to Elinda and said gently, "How could that be?" Then he returned to his usual tsundere expression. "Oh, you know how tiring it is to walk around the track 5 times? I'm still mad at you." Reynard suddenly said, "If you train properly, walking those few laps should be easy, right, Elinda?" Seeing Elinda's embarrassment, Luke redirected his attention to Reynard, saying he was really clueless. Elinda quickly pinched Luke to shut him up. Seeing this, Serena quickly changed the subject, bringing up the upcoming welcome dance. Reynard didn't understand why they were having such a dance. Serena explained, because we'll be in the same class for 3 years. We barely interact with students from other classes. At this point, Elinda thought of the original plot. To be precise, this dance was a scene set up by the author so that Serena and Noah could meet. Reynard became even more embarrassed. He actually had a dance. Luke, noticing Reynard's discomfort, called him out directly. Even though you've practiced swordsmanship, you can't keep up with the dance steps? Reynard retorted, you seem pretty confident. The two began bickering back and forth, like two hungry wolves about to tear each other apart. In Elinda's memory, neither of them were very good dancers. As the gathering dispersed, Luke turned to Linda and asked, are you a good dancer? Elinda confidently replied, probably better than you. Luke just looked at her with a smile. Then he grabbed Elinda's hand and asked her to practice dancing with him. The Villainess, who had been executed twice in her past lives, had become the darling of everyone in this life. Not only was she best friends with the original heroine, but several male leads were also vying for her attention. Even though Luke was a good dancer, he pretended he couldn't dance and asked Elinda to teach him. While practicing, Luke kept stepping on Elinda's feet. Elinda was exasperated, but Luke said he was just following Elinda's lead and asked if he was doing it right. Serena laughed from the side and said, Elinda did teach you well, you just didn't keep up. Elinda didn't understand why Luke would rather be scolded by her than practice dancing. Luke simply said it was because it was fun. A moment later, Luke pulled Elinda close, saying, if you teach me to dance properly, I'll teach you a unique magic spell from the magic tower. Maybe you can use it on someone you hate. Hearing that she could learn new magic, Elinda immediately agreed to teach Luke again. This time, Luke danced confidently, even better than Elinda. Elinda was puzzled. How could he suddenly be so good? This wasn't a skill that could be achieved in just a day or two. This was different from the original plot. Luke, seeing Elinda's confusion, smiled and said, didn't I tell you? I'm a good dancer. Elinda was about to ask Luke if he was a professional dancer, but Luke patted her head and said, thanks to you. It was fun. Without waiting for Elinda to respond, he disappeared using teleportation magic. In the dressing room, Elinda and Serena were choosing dresses. Arriving later than the others, there weren't many attractive options left. Serena reassured her that it was okay. Elinda just needed something to wear. At the same time, Elinda found the dress Serena wore in the original plot. She excitedly held it up to Serena and asked her to try it on. According to the plot, Crown Prince Noah fell in love with Serena at first sight when she wore this dress. Serena, however, doubted whether the dress would suit her. Just as Elinda was about to put it down and choose another, Serena said, since you picked it out for me, I'll wear it. But then she noticed the other dresses didn't look very good either. What would Elinda wear? Elinda held Serena's hand and told her not to worry. She had a plan. At the ball, as soon as Elinda and Serena entered, they caught everyone's attention. Because Elinda wasn't wearing a dress, she was wearing a tailcoat. Watching people point and whisper, Elinda scoffed. So what if a girl wears a tailcoat? Elinda's brother, William, spotted her and questioned her. Elinda, what do you think you're doing? You're a debutante in high society now. You need to watch your behavior. Elinda retorted bluntly, what's wrong with how I look? Mind your own business. She then followed up with fake pleasantries. Good evening, brother. Although we blah blah blah. Elinda's whole speech boiled down to one thing. Get lost. William immediately flew into a rage, threatening to tell their father. But Elinda was completely unfazed. You think I'm afraid of father? The two were at a standstill when Serena rushed over. Elinda, there you are. You look so handsome today. Elinda grasped Serena's hand. You look absolutely stunning too. Serena suddenly noticed William behind Elinda and asked, who is this behind you? Elinda turned around, about to introduce him, only to see a dazed William. What is this idiot doing? The girl transmigrated into the book as the villainous female supporting character. After being executed twice, she stopped fawning over the male lead and instead focused on distancing herself from him. Meanwhile, the other male lead, to protect her, danced a waltz with her love rival. To avoid dancing with the crown prince, Elinda wore a tailcoat to the ball. Unexpectedly, she was lectured by her brother, William. It was just then that Serena arrived to save the day. Elinda was about to introduce her brother to Serena, but when she turned around, she saw William with a dazed expression. Immediately afterwards, William's eyes lit up, and he instantly reverted to his gentlemanly demeanor, introducing himself directly. Seeing her brother like this, Elinda just wanted to pull Serena away quickly. Serena politely shook William's hand. "Oh, you're Elinda's brother. I thought you looked familiar." William continued to chat her up. "It seems you're quite close with my sister. Thank you for taking care of my incompetent sister." Serena quickly denied it, saying no, not at all. She then glanced away. Seeing that everyone around had noticed them, Serena said loudly to William, "You keep following me and giving me flirtatious glances. It's making me uncomfortable. Elinda keeps apologizing to me on your behalf. I hope you'll stop this behavior. It makes me feel truly bad that my dearest friend constantly has to apologize for you. Please." After saying this, Serena pulled Elinda away. William, both embarrassed and angry, turned red. At the dining table, Elinda kept praising Serena for being so cool. But Serena worried if this would cause trouble for Elinda. Elinda reassured her, "Don't worry. What you said to William was so satisfying to me." As she spoke, she picked up a piece of dessert and started eating. Serena then asked Elinda, "Why did you decide to wear a tailcoat?" Elinda's eyes sparkled. "Because I wanted to dance with you." The two friends chatted happily, although Elinda did indeed think that there were other reasons as well. Everyone knew what the engagement meant. If a man and a woman were to dance the opening waltz, they would undoubtedly be the crown prince and his fiancée. Lost in thought, Elinda was nudged by Serena. She gestured for Elinda to look behind her. The crown prince was walking towards them. Seeing this, Elinda sent Serena away, asking her to fetch some food from the opposite table. The crown prince, suppressing his anger, said, "Interesting attire. Are you dressed like this because you don't want to dance with me?" Elinda thought, exactly, but didn't say it aloud. The crown prince continued, "I don't understand why you're going to such lengths. We can't exactly kill each other now, can we? What you really want is to break off the engagement, isn't it?" As he spoke, the crown prince reached out and stroked a strand of Elinda's hair. He continued, "So I intend to make good use of this. I'll use this opportunity to demonstrate the unity between the royal family and Moto." Elinda, instantly enraged, cursed, "You're insane." Just then, an arm wrapped around the crown prince's neck from behind. Turning his head, the crown prince saw Luke grinning mischievously. He said, "If you want to promote unity between the royal family and Moto, you should be looking for me, not my partner." The crown prince struggled to break free, asking Luke what he was doing. Luke, tightening his hold, replied, "The next head of Moto is hitting on the next emperor." Elinda watched this scene, feeling both speechless and awkward. She knew Luke was trying to help her out. Luke confidently nodded at Elinda. Elinda turned and walked away. Luke, still holding the crown prince tightly, led him away. "I'm a great dancer. Let's dance the opening dance together." The crown prince, looking back at Elinda, weakly protested, "We're both men. Why would we dance?" Luke replied, "I'm wearing formal attire. Isn't that enough?" Elinda turned her head, touched, and said to Luke, "You're a really good partner." Then she went outside. Leaning against the door, Elinda sighed. What happened today was something she had never experienced in her past life. While she was lost in thought, someone suddenly called Elinda's name. Turning her head, she saw it was Reynard. Elinda asked him why he had come out. Reynard awkwardly said that he wasn't suited for that kind of atmosphere. Besides, Luke was wearing strange clothes and waltzing with the crown prince inside. Elinda couldn't help but laugh. "So you came out because you didn't want to see that scene." Reynard then told Elinda, "So I wouldn't lose to Luke. I practiced dancing. I hope to get your approval, to make you think I'm better than him. So, would you like to dance with me?" Elinda thought for a moment, then accepted Reynard's invitation. In the ballroom, Elinda asked Reynard while dancing, "How did you practice?" Reynard said the swordsmanship instructor had taught him. Elinda immediately thought of the instructor who had been staring at them. "So, it was the swordsmanship instructor who taught you. No wonder I felt like we were fighting, not dancing." After the dance, Reynard said he had never attended a ball before, so he must have looked clumsy. He thanked Elinda for accepting his invitation. Looking at Reynard's handsome smile, Elinda suddenly felt, "Is this really Reynard? You weren't such a smiley person in the original story." After Reynard left, Elinda, feeling heavy-hearted, also decided to find a place to rest. However, Luke's angry face suddenly appeared before her. He angrily shouted, "Elinda, how could you leave me and dance with another man first? Shouldn't you choose your partner first?" Elinda jokingly said, "Your Highness, didn't you already have the opening dance with the crown prince? I happen to be wearing a tailcoat. If you put on a gown, I'll dance with you." Looking at Luke's expression, Alinda thought, teasing Luke is still fun. But the next second, Luke shamelessly said, then should I wear something a little more daring this time? Alinda instantly gave in and resignedly took Luke's hand, saying, let's go to the dance floor. While dancing, Alinda thanked Luke, if it weren't for you, I would have definitely lost my temper at him. Luke remembered the Crown Prince's expression. He laughed. You really should have stayed to see his expression while dancing. He looked like he wanted to kill me on the spot. At this moment, Alinda asked the question she had always wanted to ask. What's the real reason you invited me to be your partner? But Luke said, do we need a reason between us? Alinda was puzzled that there's something special between us. What man would wear a gown for someone they've known for less than a week? Luke countered, does the depth of feeling have anything to do with the length of time? I just find you interesting, so I like you. Alinda didn't believe him. She thought Luke was unwilling to tell her. At this moment, Serena came looking for Alinda, flustered. Luke waved enthusiastically to Serena while saying to Alinda, can't you trust your partner's words for once? After a brief farewell to Alinda, Luke turned and left. Serena said worriedly, Alinda, I've been looking for you. Alinda briefly explained that she had just stepped out. Then she asked Serena, did Noah react in any way when you danced the opening dance? Serena said, he seemed to be quite upset. He left as soon as the dance was over. Alinda was delighted. It seemed that Noah wouldn't see Serena again tonight. In her third life, Alinda had finally avoided waltzing with the Crown Prince. She had also prevented Serena from meeting the Crown Prince. What a pleasant evening. Next, she would take a lot of food back to the dormitory with Serena. They would eat and play. In Alinda's third life, the plot had completely fallen apart. She had joined a magic tower and no longer had to worry about being executed by the Crown Prince. She had also successfully prevented Serena from meeting the Crown Prince and avoided waltzing with him. In class, Alinda thought about everything that had happened. Luke had danced the waltz with the Crown Prince in her place. He had even earned the title of the Crown Prince's lover. The professor on the podium was lecturing enthusiastically. He suddenly noticed Luke dozing off below and couldn't help but ask, Luke, were you dancing too hard last night that you're dozing off now? Alinda also slipped Luke a note. It read, how does it feel to be the Crown Prince's lover? Luke frowned and crumpled the note, tossing it into the trash can behind him. He then made a couple of hand gestures at Alinda. Alinda was confused, not understanding what Luke meant. Serena quietly reminded him, Professor Alinda is looking over here. Sure enough, seeing that Alinda wasn't paying attention, the professor immediately called on her to answer a question, thinking she definitely wouldn't be able to. Unexpectedly, Alinda calmly stood up and accurately answered the professor's question. The professor coughed awkwardly and continued the lecture. Serena quietly asked Alinda, how did you know the right answer? The professor must have thought you didn't know. That's why he asked. Alinda smiled and said, I reviewed it many times. No, I should say I previewed it. After class, Alinda was packing her books when Luke asked her to go to the training room after dinner. He wanted to teach her the magic he had promised her last time. Alinda looked at Luke, who still seemed a little upset, and teased, are you still angry about the joke earlier? In the hallway, Alinda curiously asked Luke what he was going to teach her. Reynard, having heard that Luke was going to teach Alinda magic, was also curious. Luke put his arm around Alinda's shoulder, deliberately showing off to Reynard. Actually, I also know some swordsmanship. I showed it off a bit last time, and he's been asking me to teach him ever since. Reynard, seeing that Luke wasn't being truthful, told him, I won't believe anything you say. Luke scratched his head and said, I just want to teach her a spell to make meteorites fall from the sky. Alinda and Serena jokingly exclaimed in an exaggerated manner, wow, our school won't be destroyed, will it? Luke naturally saw that they thought he was joking and became embarrassed. What's with that reaction? Alinda retorted, you're always telling lies. How can we believe you? Reynard nodded in agreement. After speaking, he walked ahead, chuckling, leaving Luke behind. They continued towards the training room, chatting and laughing. Inside the training room, Luke said that Alinda didn't have much magic power herself, so what he needed to do now was release Alinda's hidden magic power. Alinda was puzzled. I only know how to cast spells, not how to release magic power. Luke said, of course you don't know, because only magicians in the magic tower know this kind of training. He then explained to Alinda how to release magic power. Alinda started practicing according to Luke's instructions. Luke told her he would help her. When Alinda gathered all her magic power to her chest, as Luke instructed, she instantly felt a burning sensation. It felt as if all the strength had been drained from her body, and her mind went blank. However, this state was quickly interrupted. Luke nervously told her to stop from behind. Seeing Luke's worried expression, Alinda didn't understand what had happened. Serena, who was standing beside her, looked at Alinda with concern and reminded her, "Alinda, your hair." Alinda then realized that her hair was completely white. While trying to release her hidden magic power, her hair had turned completely white. Serena quickly ran over and worriedly asked, "Do you feel unwell anywhere?" Alinda said that besides a buzzing in her head, she felt fine. Her senses had also become very sharp. Then she joked, "I haven't turned into an old lady, have I? Is there a mirror?" Luke said worriedly, "Alinda, you still have the energy to worry about that." Serena was still worried and asked Alinda again if she was really all right. Alinda smiled and said, "I'm really fine. I just feel very sleepy." Luke picked Alinda up and said, "You've used up too much magic power. You probably don't have much strength left now. Rest for a while." Alinda leaned against Luke's chest and peacefully fell asleep. When Alinda woke up, Serena and Luke were both watching over her. Luke told her to lie down again. Serena also asked with concern if she felt any discomfort and told Alinda that they were in the infirmary. Luke insisted on taking care of you personally, so the teacher left. Alinda was still puzzled as to why releasing her magic power had caused such a change. Luke told her, "It's because your body couldn't handle the magic power. That's why that change happened. Although you've recovered now, the magic power in your body is still unstable, so you should still rest well. Generally, when the body reaches its limit, the release of magic power will be interrupted. So no matter how much you release, the magic power will reach a limit. But Alinda, you're special. Your body couldn't handle it anymore, but the magic power was still being released." Alinda was startled. So, does that mean my magic power is limitless? Luke sighed. "Why do you always do such foolish things? Regardless of whether your magic has limits, if you constantly push your body's limits, it won't be able to cope. Now it's just your hair turning white, but later it could affect other organs. You could even die." Alinda looked at the angry Luke and thoughtlessly said, "I rarely see him angry in the novel. What's wrong?" After this incident, Luke asked the professor for a leave of absence for Alinda. Although the professor was reluctant, Luke insisted, listing a variety of reasons. 5 days passed quickly. Alinda dejectedly carried her luggage back to school. As soon as she arrived, she saw the enthusiastic Serena. While Alinda was away, Serena had organized all her class notes. Seeing this, all of Alinda's unhappiness disappeared. Serena was so kind. As the two embraced, Luke got jealous. He suddenly appeared and forcibly separated them. "Why are you two girls hugging so early in the morning?" He then pulled a whetstone from his pocket. He handed it to Alinda, saying he had made it especially for her. It was already enchanted and could prevent the previous incident from happening again. Alinda was impressed. She had been thinking about how to slowly explore the balance point of her magic release, but this whetstone easily solved her problem. Serena peeked over and said that she and Luke had made it together. Alinda worried if it would harm Serena, but Serena said it was fine, because we're friends. Alinda, moved, hugged Serena. Luke, standing to the side, was awkward again. "I helped too." He came from the most prominent family in the Empire, yet he was suspected of cheating by the teacher at the Magic Academy. And the one who cleared him was the Crown Prince Noah, who had executed him twice in the past. The class bell rang. After the professor entered, he directly told the students to put away their books. He said this class was a surprise test, just to understand everyone's level, so there was no need to be nervous. Looking at the questions on the test paper, the students scratched their heads, unable to answer. But for Alinda, who had been reborn 3 times, it was a piece of cake. She considered whether to just write something random, but decided against it. After all, she still wanted to join the Magic Tower after graduation. It was better to leave a good impression on the teacher first. The next day, Alinda was called to the office. The professor suspected Alinda of cheating on yesterday's quiz and sternly reprimanded her. "Even if you come from the most prominent family in the Empire, I won't be intimidated." Alinda assured the professor that she hadn't cheated. "You shouldn't accuse me like this." The professor handed Alinda her entrance exam scores. That question was very difficult. Besides Luke, no other freshman could possibly answer it correctly. You barely passed the entrance exam, and now you've answered everything correctly. How can I not be suspicious? After seeing the transcript, Alinda was speechless. The original Alinda was truly a poor student. The professor continued his reasoning. Moreover, Luke is your partner. It wouldn't be difficult to bypass the cheat-detecting magic. Do you still dare to say you didn't cheat? Alinda was at a loss for words and could only look at Luke, waiting for him to speak. But Luke opened his mouth and said, Alinda isn't pretty enough for me to do something like that for her. But the professor didn't believe him. He said that Luke always liked to do strange things, that if you didn't cheat, then show me the proof. Alinda asked the professor to give her another test. Crown Prince Noah's voice suddenly came from the doorway. He said he could prove Alinda's innocence. Noah said Alinda was very talented in magic and had been self-studying since the entrance exam. He had also personally witnessed her using weaponized attack magic. But the professor still didn't believe it, saying it wasn't out of the question that Noah was lying to protect his fiancée. Unexpectedly, Noah swore in the name of the emperor that he wasn't lying. The entire office fell silent. Swearing in the name of the emperor was a covenant magic only royalty could use. If the oath was contrary to the truth, the oath taker would be tortured to death by extreme pain. The professor had to compromise and asked Alinda to retake the exam. The matter was considered settled. Although she was reluctant to admit it, Noah had indeed helped her this time. Alinda told Luke to go back first. She wanted to talk to Noah alone. She told Noah, I pray every day for you to disappear forever, but it doesn't work at all. Noah was speechless. That I asked this how you thank someone who helped you? What do you want to say to me? Alinda hesitated that if I said it directly, you definitely wouldn't agree. But I won't beat around the bush now. Noah looked at Alinda questioningly. The next second, Alinda said, let's break off our engagement. Noah gave a smug, almost bloodthirsty smile. Why should I break off the engagement? Marrying you maintains the relationship between the royal family and Moda. I wouldn't let such a good opportunity slip away. Alinda retorted, if it's just about maintaining the relationship between the royal family and Moda, wouldn't Luke be a better choice? You even danced with him. The crown prince simply said, Luke absolutely hates me. Alinda, hearing this, exploded. You won't find anyone in this world who hates you more than I do. Noah looked even more perplexed. He slowly approached Alinda. You used to like me, he said. Alinda replied, people change. Besides, you never did anything for me. Noah didn't argue. He hadn't done anything for Alinda. Alinda stated plainly, in short, I don't want to maintain this engagement with you anymore. I don't want you to use me to improve relations between Moda and the royal family. If you don't agree, she continued, I will personally destroy the Maleficent family. The girl, after transmigrating into the book, was experiencing her third rebirth. Due to being executed by the crown prince in her previous 2 lives, she was traumatized. In her third life, she decided to avoid her fiancé, the crown prince, from the very beginning. And yet, in this life, the crown prince was ignoring the original female lead and had become interested in her. After confronting the crown prince, Alinda proactively asked Reynard to teach her swordsmanship. This way, even the crown prince wouldn't be able to easily provoke her. Reynard asked her what level of proficiency she wanted to achieve. Alinda stated directly, I need to catch up to the royal family's swordsmanship curriculum. Reynard gave Alinda a fair warning, saying the training would be quite intense. Alinda confidently agreed, but after the first training session, she was completely exhausted. She kept asking Reynard for a break, but Reynard only had one response. It's not time yet. After the training, Alinda was too tired to stand. Serena came running over, concerned to take care of Alinda. Only then did Reynard realize that this kind of training was a bit too much for Alinda. He offered a few awkward words of comfort. Alinda, however, was strangely satisfied. To make such a tall and handsome man flustered because of her, it was worth it. Unexpectedly, Reynard picked Alinda up and carried her on his back. On the way back, Alinda kept wondering how things had turned out this way. Reynard was a good man. She had been trying to set Serena up with him. Meanwhile, Reynard, looking at Alinda sleeping on his back, couldn't help but feel a surge of tenderness. A month had passed since school started. Noah and Serena hadn't interacted at all. The story was deviating significantly from the original, but Alinda was still worried. When would the plot return to the original storyline? Even though Noah couldn't eliminate her now, she might still die in some other way later. Thinking about these things made Alinda lament the fragility of human life. Serena, however, comforted her. That's why people should live their lives to the fullest. If you live with the mindset that you're going to die anyway, then you're truly hopeless. Alinda was instantly invigorated. The reason she was reborn was to live her life freely and without reservation. And now that she had escaped the fate of being targeted by the Crown Prince, the protagonist, why should she worry so much? Having figured things out, Alinda hugged Serena excitedly, saying she would immediately pull herself together. This scene happened to be witnessed by Luke, who was passing by. He couldn't help but comment, "Why are they being so mushy this early in the morning?" Serena turned and politely greeted Luke, asking if he had been studying hard. Alinda, however, said sourly, "Does he even need to study? I'm so envious. He's the future leader of Moda, while I don't even know when I'll be fired." Luke chuckled. "Who would dare fire you? You're the partner I worked so hard to find." Alinda couldn't help but ask Luke again, "What were your criteria for choosing a partner?" Luke simply replied, "Someone who can make me laugh." After the three of them entered the classroom, the other students suddenly fell silent. They all stared at Alinda. Because of the previous cheating incident, Alinda had become the center of attention. Then, a classmate, Ginny, invited Alinda to join her study group, mentioning the other members. Alinda smiled and declined. Ginny's study group was composed of students from noble families. She had even invited Crown Prince Noah. It was ostensibly a study group, but in reality, it was a gathering of the upper class. Alinda didn't like these kinds of gatherings. Moreover, Ginny hadn't even invited Serena. Just after Alinda declined Ginny's invitation, Serena excitedly suggested we could form our own study group. Seeing Serena's adorable demeanor, Alinda was utterly defenseless. Of course, she wouldn't refuse the Crown Prince either. His pursuit was relentless. Gifts piled up, filling the hallway. If she didn't forgive him, there would be even more gifts to come. Alinda and her two friends were chatting and laughing on their way to the dining hall when Serena and Reynard suddenly stared at something. Following Serena's gaze, Alinda saw her brother, William, waving towards them. Noah was sitting beside him. Alinda wanted to ignore them, but Reynard grabbed her arm and asked, "Are they bullying you? Tell me if they've done anything to upset you." Alinda didn't want to cause trouble for Reynard. If he actually fought the Crown Prince, the consequences would be far worse than expulsion. He might even be executed. But Reynard told her, "If you want me to, I'll definitely avenge you." Alinda said helplessly, "One is my brother, and the other is my fiancé." Reynard froze. Fiancé. At that moment, William arrived in front of Alinda. He pretended to greet her while looking around for Serena. But no matter how hard he looked, he couldn't find her. Alinda smirked inwardly. He could search for 100 years and still not find Serena. This was all thanks to Luke, who had cast a semi-permanent illusion spell on William. Even if Serena stood right in front of him, William wouldn't be able to see a trace of her. It was perfect. Unable to find Serena, William started to persuade Alinda not to break off her engagement with the Crown Prince. And His Highness said he'll try his best to win you back. You should know when to stop. Alinda was indignant. In her past 2 lives, the Crown Prince had done everything he could to break off their engagement, even going so far as to execute her in a fit of rage. Would he really go to such lengths to win her back in this life? Impossible. As soon as Alinda returned to her dormitory, she was stunned by the sight before her. Noah was blocking the entrance with a mountain of gifts. He said he didn't know what she liked, so he just prepared a little something. Alinda didn't want to accept them. "The citizens who pay taxes for you are truly pitiful," she scoffed. But Noah replied, "This can be considered an investment that benefits the people of the empire. After all, if you change your mind, the royal family will also benefit greatly." Alinda refused outright, telling Noah to take his things and disappear. Noah still wanted to try. He didn't understand why Alinda was angry. If it was because he hadn't been attentive before, he apologized for his rudeness. Alinda didn't want to hear another word. As she closed the door, she said, "Looking at these makes me uncomfortable. Clean them up yourself before you leave." Noah forcefully stopped the door. "That if you close this door now," he warned, "there will be even more gifts tomorrow morning." Alinda burst out laughing in anger. She immediately cast a spell, setting the gifts ablaze. "You send them, I'll burn them." But the Crown Prince froze the moment he saw Alinda. Elinda's hair was slowly turning white. Elinda knew her condition was unstable, but she still angrily told Noah to leave if he didn't want to be burned alive. Suddenly, Luke appeared. He embraced Elinda while extinguishing the flames with magic. Then he anxiously asked, "Are you hurt? I told you not to use magic during this time. Why didn't you listen?" The commotion attracted the attention of other students in the dormitory. Weakened, Elinda slowly collapsed into Luke's arms. The panicked dorm supervisor rushed over to check on the situation. Luke took all the blame for Elinda, receiving a punishment of writing a self-criticism essay and cleaning the hallway for a week. Just how charming is the villainess? One day, she's being relentlessly pursued by the Crown Prince. And the next, she's capturing the heart of the carefree magic tower master. In their study group, Elinda and Luke were discussing the incident at the dormitory. Serena pleaded with them to focus. Now is study time. But Luke didn't want to study during his lunch break. He bluntly said, "There's only one person here who needs tutoring," glancing at Reynard. "Don't you think so too, General?" Reynard naturally knew Luke was referring to Serena, but he didn't want to play along. He pushed his book towards Elinda. "That I don't understand this problem." Elinda was surprised by Reynard's action. It seemed he had outmaneuvered Luke this time. But Elinda wanted to set up Reynard and Serena. She told Reynard to just ask Serena out. How should he solve this problem? Watching the two earnestly talking, Elinda felt a sense of relief. "Just keep communicating like this," she said, "and let the seeds of love take root and sprout." Luke suddenly leaned close to Elinda's ear and whispered, "Let's slip away. Didn't you want to set them up?" Elinda pondered for a moment. Luke really could see right through her. It would be good to let them have some alone time. Then, Elinda nodded in agreement with Luke's suggestion. In the next second, as Serena and Reynard looked on in surprise, Luke took Elinda and teleported them away with magic. After they appeared in the laboratory, Elinda finally reacted. How did Luke trick her into coming here? Serena was going to be angry. Luke asked her why she was so assertive usually, but became so hesitant in front of Serena. Elinda replied confidently, "That's normal, because I like Serena. Being at a loss for words in front of someone you like is perfectly normal." Luke teased her dismissively. "Isn't your fiancé also devoted to you? What about him?" Elinda resisted the urge to punch Luke. After they exchanged a few more words, Luke praised Elinda for stabilizing her magic power relatively quickly. It seemed she had been training seriously. He encouraged her to continue working hard on her magic in the future. Elinda also voiced her question, "Why did you know I could use high-level magic the first time we met?" Luke explained seriously, "Because the flow of magic within you is different from that of a novice. People who haven't mastered magic have weak magic power and flow. But you're different. The magic within you is at least at the level of a graduate. Besides that," he continued, "the way you talked back to the Crown Prince was also quite interesting. Thanks to you, my life has become much more entertaining." As he spoke, Luke brushed the hair away from Elinda's ear and removed the necklace that controlled her magic. Elinda was a little flustered by Luke's intimate gesture. He had just said she could take it off, but in the next second, Luke had already removed the necklace. Although Luke's usual behavior was more outrageous than this, at this moment, Elinda suddenly felt the air filled with an ambiguous atmosphere. Luke asked Elinda to try releasing her magic again and assured her that this time it wouldn't go out of control like before. He even said that if there was another accident, he would call Reynard Big Brother. Hearing this, Elinda instantly became a bit interested and immediately started releasing her magic power like before. Luke carefully guided her from the side. When Elinda started to feel dizzy, Luke quickly told her to stop, and he began chanting a spell towards the necklace. After the spell was complete, Luke happily praised Elinda for doing a good job and affectionately pinched her cheek. Seeing Elinda's radiant smile, Luke suddenly froze. In that instant, he felt his heart racing. At this moment, the bell rang, interrupting Luke's thoughts. It was almost time to go back and prepare for class. Luke grabbed Elinda's hand, preparing to teleport. As he cast the spell, he glanced at Elinda. The usually carefree Luke now seemed to suddenly understand Elinda's earlier words. Being at a loss for words in front of someone you like is perfectly normal. The girl transmigrated into a book and became the villainous supporting female character. Reborn for the third time, she turned the tables. With the Crown Prince madly confessing his love and the Modu Lord acting as her personal bodyguard, the original female lead had deep feelings for her best friend. The original second male lead also had secret feelings for her. Back in the classroom, Luke was just about to put the magic-infused necklace on Alinda when he suddenly noticed everyone around him staring. So he could only hand the necklace to Alinda and tell her that after wearing it, she wouldn't exceed her magic limit anymore. Serena thoughtfully put the necklace on Alinda. Alinda asked Luke how much her magic power had increased compared to before. Luke paused. Can I say it here? Alinda didn't think too much about it and just told Luke to go ahead. Everyone around them was curiously waiting for Luke's answer. The next second, they heard Luke say, not much. If released to the limit, it's about equivalent to a junior royal magician. The surrounding students were all shocked. Serena also said, that's not much at all. But looking at Luke's nonchalant expression, Alinda suddenly felt like he was lying. After Luke had dispersed the onlookers, he quietly approached Alinda and told her that he hadn't said she was a royal magician, but a magician from the Magic Tower, and that she was already at a high level. Alinda didn't understand why Luke had lied just now. Luke smiled and patted Alinda's head, saying, I was afraid that telling the truth would cause you a lot of trouble. As expected, news of Alinda's magic power had already spread throughout the academy. Even during lunch, classmates would come up to her and ask questions. Luke sighed and silently cast a shielding spell. Except for the four of them, no one else could enter the shortcut. Luke couldn't help but complain, these people are so unsophisticated. If I had known this, I would have just said Alinda was at the graduate level from the start. Reynard also said, I haven't had a chance to chat with you lately. Serena echoed, it feels like you've been stolen away. Alinda was quite happy with Serena's jealousy and possessiveness. Reynard asked Alinda, why have people been coming to find you lately? Luke said discontentedly, because of my momentary blunder, some people keep bothering Alinda. Serena explained, Luke told everyone that Alinda's magic power is equivalent to that of a royal magician. But Reynard didn't understand what level that was. Alinda said helplessly, it's like saying my swordsmanship is equivalent to that of a royal knight. Reynard suddenly realized, so you're more skilled than I thought. Luke took the opportunity to ask, what about me? Reynard coldly told him, I'm not interested in you. Then he turned to Alinda. Since you've already shown promise in magic, shouldn't your swordsmanship also catch up? Alinda felt as if she'd been struck by lightning. But Reynard was just like that, a fool who only knew swordsmanship, a man preoccupied with his own feelings. Unsurprisingly, Reynard intensified Alinda's training. He wanted to improve her stamina as well. While running, Alinda was still thinking about Reynard and Serena. But she didn't have Serena's ability to read other people's emotions, so no matter how much she thought, she couldn't understand. During a break, Alinda took out the handkerchief Serena had given her, wiped Reynard's sweat, and told him, this handkerchief is from Serena. She immediately took the opportunity to say how kind Serena was, waking her up every morning. But Reynard's focus remained on Alinda, saying, it seems you always sleep in. Alinda mentioned some of Serena's other good qualities, but every time, Reynard managed to turn the conversation back to her. Finally, Alinda couldn't help but say directly, Serena is really good. Reynard, of course, understood what Alinda meant. He confessed directly to Alinda, I know better than anyone what's in my heart, so please stop trying to force me. Looking at Reynard's serious expression, Alinda was a little confused about what he meant. Was he saying he already liked Serena and she didn't need to worry, or that there was already someone else in his heart and she shouldn't interfere? The more Alinda thought about it, the more confused she became, because in the novel, the only people who had interactions with Reynard were Serena and herself. But could a mere villain be so favored? Alinda couldn't understand. In any case, Serena would always come first. She would definitely respect her choice as long as it wasn't Noah. As the Crown Prince's fiancée, she had never lacked for male attention. Every time she met the Crown Prince, there was always a man stepping forward to protect her. Alinda was thinking about Serena and Reynard when Noah suddenly appeared behind her, calling her name and solicitously asking if she was going to dinner. Alinda found it unbelievable. Couldn't he tell she hated him? Why did he keep trying to get close to her? Alinda had just yelled for the Crown Prince to disappear when Reynard stepped in front of her, his gaze hostile as he asked Noah, is there something you need? Noah, a little jealous and a little disdainful, thought, last time it was Luke, this time it's someone else. Looking at the two men on the verge of a fight, Alinda suddenly thought that Reynard might be in danger. She pushed Reynard away, saying she could handle it. Then she bluntly told Noah, I was going to dinner, but seeing a certain someone has completely ruined my appetite. Noah said indifferently, his tone unchanged, you're engaged. You shouldn't be interacting so closely with other men. Better, right? His attitude suddenly softened, even taking on a pleading tone that I really want to talk to you properly this time, so I hope you can answer me honestly. Elinda had never seen Noah so serious with her. She couldn't help but wonder what he was up to. You clearly liked me before, Noah continued. You even wrote as much to me in your letter. You must have a reason for hating me now. What is it? Elinda noticed Reynard's fist clenching tighter and tighter beside her. She inwardly panicked. This could get ugly. But she couldn't answer Noah's question directly. Could she really say she'd been executed by him twice in her past lives? Elinda could only tell him, I just hate you. There's nothing more to say. She then urged Reynard, let's go. Noah was persistent that I'll keep waiting for you, he told her. Elinda didn't want to hear those words coming from Noah's mouth. She turned and snapped, shut up. Noah simply replied, I'm becoming more and more interested in you. Although he sounded sincere, Elinda thought, even though many novels depict the heroine falling in love with the person who killed her after she's reborn, that's only if the other person is truly remorseful. But there was nothing like that between her and Noah. Moreover, she'd been executed by him twice in the same way. Could she really let go of her hatred? Even now, seeing him, she only felt disgust and revulsion. She didn't want any concern from him. Thinking this, Elinda retorted, Are you insane? Noah seemed taken aback. Why would you think that? Is it because I said I'd execute you last time? Reynard quickly stepped in front of Elinda, preventing Noah from getting closer. Noah continued, You were always the one who pursued me. I can't understand why you suddenly hate me so much. He voiced his long-held question earnestly. Elinda felt that Noah wasn't wrong, but he certainly couldn't understand her situation, and she couldn't just let go of the hatred from 2 lifetimes. Now that the story had changed, should she stop hating Noah? Was she the one in the wrong? Lost in thought, she saw Noah's expression suddenly shift to one of shock. Elinda's hair was starting to turn white again. She suddenly felt like she couldn't breathe. She just wanted to escape. Just now, the Crown Prince had been shocked to see Elinda's hair turning white. Elinda felt a tightness in her chest, making it hard to breathe. She just wanted to get away from there immediately. The next second, Luke suddenly appeared beside her. Without a word, he grabbed her hand and used teleportation magic to leave. Elinda smelled the enchanting fragrance of flowers. They had teleported to the garden. Luke led her to a bench. You haven't eaten anything, have you? Sit here for a moment. Then, before Elinda could react, he vanished again. He quickly returned with a bag of bread. Elinda took the bag, curiously asking, How did you know I was there? Luke told her, I sensed an unusual fluctuation in your magic. Elinda curiously asked, So you can sense my magic no matter where I am? Luke explained that he could, as long as she was within the academy grounds. Beyond that range, it became more difficult. Elinda was instantly amazed. The academy was huge. She then asked Luke, Did you know what was happening, and that's why you took me away? Luke took the bread bag from her hand and said he didn't know, but at least I knew you wanted to escape from there. He stuffed a piece of bread into her mouth, stopping her incessant questions. You have no idea what state you are in just now. If a mage's stress reaches its limit, they lose control of their magic. He cautioned Elinda, You especially need to be careful. Although you're wearing the necklace I gave you, nothing is guaranteed. Be careful. Elinda asked Luke, Aren't you curious why I wanted to run away just now? Luke countered, Would you tell me if I asked? You know I hate the Crown Prince. This has to do with him. Elinda hesitated. How could she explain this? Tell him this world was the setting of a novel? That she possessed the villainess and died once, then tried being a good person and still died? And that the root of this ill-fated connection was Noah, and that's why she hated him so much? Elinda pondered. How could she explain this to Luke? Luke rested his head on his hand, gesturing for Elinda not to rush. Take your time, he said. Having made up her mind, Elinda decided to tell him another way. I have my reasons for hating him, but I can't tell him the reason directly. It might sound strange to you, because the event that caused that reason hasn't happened yet. But he's changed. He even said he's curious about me. But I really hate him. I truly hate him. Yet when he asked me why I hate him, I can't answer. So I suddenly started wondering, is it right for me to hate him now, since he hasn't done anything to me so far? At this point, Luke asked Elinda, Do other people also think you should hate him? After receiving an affirmative answer, Luke said to Alinda, "If that's the case, what are you hesitating about? You expressed your dislike from the beginning. Even so, he's the one who keeps pestering you. Why are you putting up with it?" Hearing Luke's response, Alinda also felt she didn't need to endure it. After all, in the second life, Noah still killed me recklessly, even though I, Serena, hadn't tormented him. "Do what you want to do, Alinda. Even if it's something you shouldn't do, I believe in you." Luke's words instantly touched Alinda. So don't feel confused. Take this opportunity to make a decision. If you continue to waver, the only one who will suffer is you. Do what I think, do what I want to do. Yes, my current actions might be bad, but it doesn't matter, because I've decided not to put up with it anymore. I'd rather be a bad person. After Luke's persuasion, Alinda's mood brightened considerably. She expressed her gratitude to Luke. Then Luke pointed out another of Alinda's problems. You don't have to face everything. Why do you always respond to him when you can just ignore him? That's why he's even more reckless, isn't it? Reminded by him, Alinda realized that was indeed the case, that I really do listen to him every time, don't I? At this point, Alinda had to admit, it's not that Luke needs me, it's that I need Luke. Alinda smiled, feeling like she had found a good partner. Luke immediately responded haughtily, "Of course, you won't find a partner as perfect as me anywhere." But unexpectedly, Alinda changed the subject. "Actually, Serena is still better." This infuriated Luke. "I even bought you bread." But the next second, he extended his hand towards Alinda. Alinda immediately understood and reached out to grasp his hand. At this moment, an inexplicable emotion sprouted in both their hearts. The next day, when they ate together, the atmosphere was very awkward. Because she was so eager to escape yesterday, Alinda hadn't considered that she had abandoned Reynard again. This was the second time. She felt guilty and didn't dare look directly at Reynard. Looking at Reynard's tense face, Alinda put down her fork and asked courageously, Reynard, are you very angry?" Alinda thought Reynard must hate her now. After all, he had just told her yesterday not to leave him alone again. And the same thing happened the next day, that I asked that why you're just staring at me without eating. Alinda sincerely apologized to Reynard. Unexpectedly, Reynard said he wasn't angry at all. Confused, Alinda asked him why. "You were giving me such an angry look that I almost suffocated." "I'm not angry at you. I'm angry at myself. I should have at least taken you away from there or punched him in front of you." Reynard's words surprised Alinda. But he's the crown prince. Although Reynard's character setting was of common birth, shouldn't he know that my fiancé is the crown prince? No, it's possible he doesn't know. The first day he met me, he didn't know I was Alinda Maleficent, did he? Having black hair and golden eyes means being a member of the Maleficent family. Most people should know that. However, Reynard belatedly realized, now that you mention it, his eyes were indeed red. Alinda instantly exclaimed, "Oh my God, you really didn't know? I can treat him carelessly because I have backing. But you can't, you know, Reynard." Reynard calmly replied, "I'll be careful next time." Noticing the words, "next time," in his sentence, Alinda's expression changed, and a sense of foreboding arose in her heart. She spoke uneasily. "Reynard, are you?" Reynard scratched the back of his head and said, "Actually, I didn't hit him that hard. If only he wasn't saying things like that." Alinda blushed, feeling utterly helpless. She'd feared this would happen when Reynard stepped in front of her yesterday. That's why she'd insisted on handling it herself. Everyone else still seemed to believe her. Luke burst out laughing. "You really hit him? Leaving you, there was definitely the right move. He's really something else." Alinda frowned, annoyed, and told Luke to shut up. Then she turned to Reynard and asked, "Do you realize what you've done?" Reynard answered with absolute certainty, "I hit the crown prince." "I know." Looking at his nonchalant expression, Alinda was suddenly a loss for words. Serena, standing beside them, explained to Reynard, "Alinda's worried about the repercussions you might face." Alinda felt tears welling up. "Serena's the only one who understands me," she thought gratefully. Seeing Reynard's confused expression, Serena told him, "Hitting a member of the royal family is a serious offense." Alinda seized the opportunity to complain to Serena about the crown prince. "And he's got such a terrible personality, you know? He even threatened to kill me last time. You can't forget that. He's completely irredeemable." Serena responded with an indulgent look and pinched Alinda's cheek. "That's not what we're talking about right now, though," she reminded her. Reminded of the serious matter at hand, Alinda turned to Reynard and spoke earnestly. "You can't just resort to violence, especially not against the crown prince. This isn't going to be simple. Luke, however, praised Reynard for what he'd done and even encouraged him to do it again, promising to erase the Crown Prince's memory. Hearing this, Elinda snapped, warningly calling out Luke's name. Luke immediately shut up and, changing his tune, said, "That's right, you shouldn't use your powers so carelessly. What you did was wrong." Elinda was about to tell Reynard, "If you understand, then be more careful next time," but Reynard spoke first. "But from what you're saying, it sounds like I shouldn't have touched him simply because he's the Crown Prince. Even if I knew he was the Crown Prince, I would still have hit him. If it happens again, no matter how many times, I'll do the same thing. Because he bothered you." Looking at Reynard's clenched fists, Elinda knew he wasn't just saying that. She suddenly felt like this was all her fault. Getting past a certain level of Halgon with someone inevitably caused trouble for everyone. Things like this were bound to happen again, and they might have to bear the responsibility for things she couldn't foresee. Because she knew the original story's trajectory, if things went wrong, she would feel responsible. She needed to take measures, at least to prevent them from being affected by her. So she said solemnly to Reynard, "I appreciate the sentiment, but if the Crown Prince needs to be taught a lesson, I should be the one to do it." Later that day, the group was having a study session in the library. Elinda was diligently studying with Serena, while Reynard's attention was entirely focused on Elinda. Luke was bored, playing with a pencil using magic. Seeing this, Serena was so angry she nearly snapped her pen, but she asked with a sweet smile, "Aren't you going to study for the exams?" Elinda immediately picked up on the thinly veiled threat in her voice. She shot Reynard a look, urging him to look at his book. Then she turned to glare at Luke, exasperated. The clueless boy was always like this with Serena. And Serena, too. She seemed incapable of speaking harshly to Luke. Now she was just glaring at him. Annoyed, Elinda yelled at Luke, "Luke Oscar, put the pen down. This is a study group." Luke just sent the pencil flying higher, saying he didn't need to study. Elinda argued that since they were all sitting there, they should at least try to do something. "Who do you think set up the barrier so the other students wouldn't bother you?" Hearing this, Elinda said with a smile, "A simple barrier like that, I can do too." Luke clearly didn't believe her. Creating a completely separate space barrier is magic you only learn at the Moda Tower. Elinda seized the moment and asked Luke to show her the formula. "Didn't you say you'd show me the magic you can only learn at the Moda Tower? Just let me see it for 10 seconds. Luke said, "What difference will 10 seconds make?" Elinda replied that she just wanted to confirm how complex his amazing magic was. "Is that a no?" Goaded by Elinda, Luke quickly scribbled the formula in the air. Elinda immediately started memorizing it intently. Soon, the formula in the air began to dissipate. Serena remarked, "Exactly 10 seconds, wasn't it?" Elinda cursed Luke under her breath. "What a heartless boy. But whatever, it's enough." "All right, Luke," Elinda said, "if I make it so you don't have to do these chores anymore, will you study?" Luke asked Elinda why she was saying such unsettling things. "That it's for this," Elinda replied. As soon as she finished speaking, a barrier unfolded above their heads. Elinda silently marveled at her own exceptional memory. She could memorize entire novels. Everyone stared at the barrier, gasping in surprise. Luke especially was stunned. He asked Elinda, in disbelief, how she did it. Elinda proudly declared, "Of course, it was through my amazing ability. Now let's begin studying." "Is this really the time to talk about studying?" Luke protested that "I've never seen a mage like you, even in Moda. This isn't the time for this." Elinda didn't want to hear it. She slammed her hand on the table, declaring, "Now is the time to study." She ordered him to sit properly and then constantly hovered over him, adjusting his posture and reminding him to write neatly. "We'll talk about everything else after study group," she told him. Serena praised Elinda, saying she was so cool. Elinda, a little embarrassed by the compliment, brushed it off, saying it was nothing. Luke muttered under his breath, "I told you, this isn't nothing." Elinda reminded him to be quiet and focus on studying. She also glanced at Reynard across from her, thinking she could give them some advance hints for the upcoming exam. It would help Serena, and Reynard had failed a few times. Since the storyline had already changed, this small alteration shouldn't matter. "Reynard, I'm here to save you," she thought. After the study group, Elinda told them, "I'll make a booklet of predicted exam questions for you. I'll extract the important parts within the exam scope. Please take a good look at it." Serena welcomed the idea, but asked, "Won't your hand hurt?" Elinda smiled and said it was fine, as Luke would use replication magic for her. Luke was instantly speechless. Now she's completely using me as a tool, he thought. Despite his complaint, he reached out and undid Elinda's barrier. Your magic just recovered. He reminded her, don't use it so carelessly. He then snatched Alinda's notebook. This is my hostage, he declared. Seeing her confused expression, he reminded her with a smirk, didn't you just say we'd talk after study group? Alinda had no choice but to follow him. We're about to be late for class, Luke. You know that, right? Luke replied nonchalantly. So what if I do? So what if I don't? This isn't the first time this has happened. Do you think class is more important than me? Alinda stated the obvious. If we're late, we'll definitely be punished with running laps. Luke said to Alinda, if you want, I can use memory erasing magic on the professor. Alinda exclaimed in shock. Are you crazy? Is that what you use your abilities for? Alinda even wondered if he had erased his own memories this way. Luke suddenly turned serious and asked Alinda, you knew this already, didn't you? Alinda didn't understand what he was referring to. Unless you memorized it in that short amount of time, there's no other explanation for how you set up that barrier. Luke stepped closer and pressed her. Since when has your memory been so good? Alinda's expression darkened at Luke's questioning. I have a good memory. Why do I have to explain every single detail to you? Luke admitted she had a point, but she sounded annoyed. Alinda retorted, well, you're the one who asked. Luke handed Alinda back her notebook, grumbling, if you had this kind of ability, you should have told me sooner. Alinda asked why she should have told him. Wouldn't it be? Luke's voice trailed off, his expression uncertain. Finally, he squeezed out, more interesting? If you have that kind of ability, you should tell your partner. Don't you understand trust? Luke's answer infuriated Alinda. I wasn't born into this world to entertain you. We're really going to be late for class. I'm leaving. With that, Alinda turned and walked away, refusing to listen to his explanation. Luke immediately grabbed her hand, telling her to wait. Alinda impatiently said, I'll listen to your explanation. After class, Luke signaled that there was no need to run. Then he used teleportation magic. They arrived back in the classroom just before class started. Alinda and Serena were surprised to see them back so soon. Just in case, Luke thoughtfully opened Alinda's book to the correct page. Alinda quickly thanked him. Alinda ignored Luke throughout the entire class. Sensing the tension between them, Serena wrote a note asking if they had fought. Alinda wrote back, no, I'm just unilaterally angry. But Serena noticed Luke's expression wasn't good either. She asked Alinda, is it because you just broke his barrier? Alinda replied, maybe. Serena thought for a moment, then suddenly seemed to understand something. She said to Alinda, maybe Luke is upset because you didn't tell him you're feeling down. Alinda said, it's not like I was trying to hide it from him. If I really wanted to keep it a secret, I wouldn't have broken his barrier in the first place. Just then, Serena reminded Alinda, maybe Luke is upset because you didn't tell him you were feeling down. Alinda said she wasn't trying to hide it from him. If I really wanted to keep it secret, I wouldn't have broken his barrier in the first place. But Serena told Alinda, telling him directly and having him find out unknowingly are two different things. Hearing this, Alinda realized her mistake. After all, Luke had said earlier that he would have more fun if she told him sooner. Serena told Alinda, we like you more than you think. She continued, Luke isn't very good at expressing his feelings. Alinda, however, thought that even so, Luke saying the wrong thing couldn't just be brushed aside. After all, Luke was the one who said those things, so he should be responsible for them. Serena, seeing Alinda silent, thought she had upset her by speaking up for Luke. So she quickly explained, you shouldn't be too upset. Luke did say the wrong thing. Just then, Luke tossed over a note. It read, after sword training, meet me at the magic research area. Didn't I say I'd teach you the magic tower's magic? Alinda pouted and replied, you wouldn't tell me before, and now you want to teach me? Luke explained, I didn't think you were qualified to learn the magic tower's magic before. But this time, Alinda had proven her strength. Alinda nodded haughtily in agreement. The next day, during their meal after sword training, Serena was surprised to find that Alinda now seemed quite familiar with the training. Before, Alinda had struggled even to hold her cutlery at meal times. Now, she was perfectly normal. After Serena mentioned this, Alinda also noticed, rubbing her knife and fork. She said excitedly, my body seems to have gotten used to it. Lately, I feel uncomfortable if I don't exercise. Hearing this, Reynard was about to say, then we can increase the training intensity, when Alinda quickly put down her cutlery and retracted her previous statement. How can you increase the training intensity here? At this rate, I might actually faint. Reynard remained silent, but his eyes gazed intently at Alinda, as if to say, Alinda, you can do it. So let's do it together. Before Alinda could react, Luke refused for her. Alinda still has to learn magic after sword practice. Reynard calmly accepted this. Luke wondered why he didn't argue back at all. Reynard looked at Alinda with a gentle expression and said, "Whether it's swordsmanship or magic, I don't want to stop Alinda from training. It's all part of her cultivation. As long as she can grow, that's enough." Alinda blushed at his words, thought he's totally trying to seduce me on purpose. Serena, hearing that Alinda had to go learn magic after sword practice and dinner, worried if she would be too tired. Alinda thought to herself, "It's nothing. I've had a much more intense high school life than this before." She reassured Serena not to worry. "Maybe after I'm done, I can even study with you." Serena was happy to hear this, but still worried Alinda would be overwhelmed. Alinda smiled and said, "It's really okay. I actually think it's more fun to be with you." She then offered Serena her vegetable salad. Serena was delighted that me too. "But Alinda, didn't I say yesterday I wouldn't eat your salad anymore? You can't be a picky eater. You have to finish it." Her little scheme was discovered. Alinda laughed awkwardly. The two girls agreed to study together in Serena's room after Alinda's magic training. Luke suddenly asked enthusiastically, "Can I come too?" Alinda asked him, "Are you planning on entering the girls' dormitory?" Luke asked her, "Are you asking me to just watch a potential top student get personal tutoring and not try to join in? Besides, last time, the Crown Prince showed up at your door, didn't he?" Alinda replied, "That's why the rules have become stricter since then. And you're not interested in studying anyway, are you?" Luke, however, said, "From now on, I think I'm interested." "Right, Reynard." Suddenly called upon, Reynard froze. He wanted to say he wasn't that interested, but Serena said he had to be, or he might fail. Luke said cheerfully, "But it's not like there's no way around it." That look, Alinda and Serena had seen it before at the freshman ball. They suddenly started to feel uneasy. That night, the unease became reality. Serena stared in shock at the two people in front of her. Luke and Reynard had transformed into two incredibly beautiful women. Alinda couldn't believe Reynard had allowed this. She suddenly found the situation a bit much to handle. Pointing at Luke's chest, she asked, "Is this real?" Luke puffed out her chest and asked if Alinda wanted touch. Alinda scolded him, "Are you crazy?" and immediately shut them both out of the room. Locked out, Luke started frantically knocking on the door. Alinda asked Serena, "Should we let them in?" Serena, looking deeply affected, could only say, "Reynard's sincerity is commendable." Alinda grumbled, "Luke, I can understand, but Reynard? It's his bedtime." Alinda opened the door and told the two outside, "If there's no one else out there, change back right now. Don't even think about coming and looking like that. This is my surprise," Luke said, but obediently changed back to his normal form. Seeing this, Alinda quickly pulled them both into the dorm room. The door slammed shut again. Alinda stood behind it, thinking, "We're doomed. If we're discovered now, it's all over." Reynard apologized to Alinda as soon as he entered, explaining, "Luke, Oscar said you'd like it, so I thought it would be fun." Luke added, "Oscar said he knows some ghost stories." Serena awkwardly interjected, "We're not here to have fun. We're here to study." Luke laughed, "Can't we have a little fun after studying?" They then began to discuss their studies. Alinda patiently explained things to them. Before long, Luke started complaining, "This is so boring. You don't think we dressed up as girls just to study, do you?" Alinda clenched her fists in frustration. "We agreed to study from the beginning. If you don't want to study, get out." Luke said, "That's so cold. Are you really my partner?" Alinda raised an eyebrow. "Didn't you know? You're actually the partner I picked up." "Watson, don't you think she's being too harsh?" Luke asked Reynard, only to see him with his head down, unresponsive. "You're not asleep, are you?" Sure enough, the next second, Reynard slumped forward with a thud. He fell asleep on the table, snoring softly. Alinda was speechless. Don't people usually nod off before they fall asleep? Serena told Luke to put Reynard on his bed. Luke retorted, "Why not just throw him back in his own dorm?" Serena explained, "Reynard will be very disoriented if he wakes up halfway there." Luke grumbled, "He'll be more freaked out waking up in someone else's bed." But he still obediently did as he was told, unceremoniously dumping Reynard onto the bed. Despite the rough handling, Reynard remained asleep. Alinda pointed out, "It's about Reynard's bedtime now. He's bound to be tired." Luke complained, "But it's my playtime." He only shut up after Alinda gave him a warning look. Seeing that they still had so much to study, Luke offered to help them finish quickly. Alinda nervously asked what he was planning. Luke quickly said, "Studying? What are you studying?" "Let me see. I'll explain it to you." Elinda stared at him, dumbfounded that you're going to explain it for me. Luke confidently sat down next to Serena and told Elinda to go rest. Elinda thought that Serena would call her if needed, so she went and sat on Serena's bed. Looking at Reynard sleeping peacefully, she suddenly remembered a phrase. With hands clasped at their chest, they're the perfect princess sleeping in the forest. On a whim, she took Reynard's hands and placed them on his chest. This was Elinda's first time seeing Reynard this close. She started to notice his little habits, the ones that weren't in the books. Elinda felt like she was dreaming. Just then, Reynard grabbed her hand. Elinda thought she had woken him up. However, Reynard just opened his eyes and looked at her. Then he placed her hand over his heart and, still holding it, went back to sleep. Seeing that Reynard was asleep again, Elinda tried to pull her hand away, but his grip was tight. Suddenly, Serena asked Elinda what she was doing. Startled, Elinda quickly pulled her hand back and rubbed the back of her head. Nothing. I was just checking if Reynard was really asleep. Serena said happily, we're all done studying. Luke's explanations were even more concise and clear than I expected. Meanwhile, Luke was glaring at Elinda, clearly unhappy. He went over and pulled her up. That I told you to go rest. What are you doing? Finally, it was Luke's long-awaited break time. Elinda was curious about what he was going to do. Luke played it coy, then snapped his fingers. The entire room immediately became dim and eerie. A flame ignited in Luke's hand. He asked the two girls if they knew any of the Academy's ghost stories. You know the fountain in our school, right? If you go to the fountain at midnight, you can see blood flowing from it. And if you look closely at the blood, they say a hand will reach out from the fountain and pull you in. As he spoke, Luke suddenly grabbed Elinda's hand. Elinda's heart nearly stopped. Reflexively, she punched him. Luke doubled over in pain, his whole body trembling. He stammered, I think my heart just stopped. Seeing how much pain Luke was in, Elinda quickly explained that she had been startled and her hand had moved faster than her brain. Straightening up, Luke said, should I help you retrain your reflexes? Get you used to using magic first? My partner is such a terrifying person, more frightening than the Academy's ghost stories. Annoyed, Elinda retorted, you're making fun of me. Next time, my fist might just land on your face. Ignoring her, Luke just chuckled and patted Elinda's hair. Elinda was speechless, thinking about actually punching him again. But the next second, Luke removed his hand and brightened the room. Roll call is about to start. We have to go. So, Elinda and Serena saw them to the door. Serena smiled and thanked Luke. Luke, with a sleeping Reynard slung over his shoulder, waved goodbye to the two girls. As he left, he said with a mischievous grin, I hear that if you wander around the girls' dormitory alone, you might see a ghost. Then, after saying that, he used teleportation magic and disappeared. Elinda was too scared to sleep alone. Thankfully, Serena stayed with her. The next day, Elinda was walking down the hallway and overheard some girls discussing last night's events. Did you hear? Yesterday, when Aaliyah was returning to her dorm, she said she saw two girls walking in the dormitory hallway. This is the girls' dormitory. Isn't that normal? What's wrong with that? But she said she'd never seen those two before. So, she went to check the student registry. No matter how hard she looked, she couldn't find them. Elinda stopped in her tracks. This sounded eerily familiar. One of the girls asked if she had seen wrong. The other girl replied, no way. She said their appearances were very memorable. One was a tall girl with brown hair, and the other had short silver hair. She also said they both looked a bit strange. Hearing this, Elinda immediately knew. Those two idiots caused trouble again. Arriving at the classroom, Elinda put her bag on the desk and asked Luke, how does it feel to be famous first thing in the morning? Luke didn't understand what she was talking about. Or should I say, how does it feel to have become a ghost story yourself? Seeing Serena's downcast mood, Elinda told Luke to quickly erase yesterday's memory. Luke was still confused, asking what Elinda was talking about. Elinda exclaimed, what are you talking about? That crazy thing you did. Seeing everyone looking at her, Elinda lowered her voice. Luke was completely unfazed. Was it really that shocking? I was seriously trying to transform like you guys. Then he said he couldn't erase Serena's memory, because if he wasn't careful, he might erase something he shouldn't. Elinda was stunned. But last time you were so adamant about using memory erasing magic on me. Luke immediately replied, how can other people be the same as you guys? Elinda then realized that Luke didn't care one bit about anyone outside of their small circle. Aside from the few of them, everyone else was just a speck of dust to him, just like how she had been to Luke in her past life. So, Elinda could only warn Luke never to do that again. At that moment, Serena changed the subject. Did you guys hear? I heard we're having a swordsmanship exam with Class B. Elinda froze. Had already come to that. In the original story, it was Noah and Luke who dueled. Then, pretending to hear this news for the first time, Elinda said, "Really? Won't that mean all the students in Class B will win? Aren't they specializing in swordsmanship?" Serena explained, "That's why it's only between Class A and Class C, excluding Class B." Elinda complained about having a swordsmanship exam. "After this is over, the real exams will definitely start, right?" Serena laughed. "Don't you want to take the exams, Elinda?" Elinda hugged Serena and said she didn't like the vacation that came after the exams because that's when she had to crawl back into the hellish Morpheasant. After returning to the mansion, I'll be pestered by William, tormented by Duke Morpheasant, and busy dealing with a flood of party invitations. And the Emperor keeps making me and Noah attend balls. I want to run away from home. I hope Serena will take me in." Serena said, "Of course." Hearing that, I thought, I'll really pack a few things and run away. Let them worry about the invitations. "Elinda, why don't you face the Crown Prince in this duel? Isn't that why you're having Watson teach you?" "Discipline is also my responsibility." I was speechless. This guy was actually mimicking someone right in front of them. Honestly, I was hesitant. After all, the Crown Prince has been practicing swordsmanship all this time, while I, up until now, haven't properly learned how to put it into practice. Luke teased, "Judging by the force you used to hit someone yesterday, you can beat him." I gritted my teeth and said, "Do you want me to punch you again so you can reconfirm?" Luke said, "Isn't Elinda a fast learner? Just watch how Watson uses the bow and memorize it." I wish it were that easy. Memorizing and practical application are completely different. Then Serena also suggested, "Why don't you get some crash course tutoring from Reynard? Aren't you suffering because of that person, Elinda? I hope you can release some stress through this duel." I thought about it for a moment and agreed. If I win, I can also knock down Noah's arrogance a bit. I've been so stressed lately. I can release some of the pent-up frustration in my heart. Thinking about it this way, the desire to win suddenly surged. I said, "Then it's decided." Serena smiled and said, "Let's ask Reynard during lunch." When Reynard heard about the swordsmanship exam, he immediately agreed to help me train without hesitation. I could feel that after that day. Reynard seemed to dislike Noah even more than before. Will he not join the Royal Knights in the future? Although it's not my place to interfere in Reynard's life, I'm still worried. Distracted, Reynard's sword pointed at my neck again. He told me to focus. This was the 15th time I'd lost today. Dejected, I said, "This is so hard." Reynard wiped the sweat from my forehead with his sleeve and comforted me. "Since you've never used a sword before, it's impossible for your skills to improve drastically in just one morning." I asked, "There's less than a week until the exam. Can I really win?" Reynard's expression was hesitant. Seeing this, I couldn't help but feel discouraged. "Even if it's empty words, can't you say something encouraging?" Reynard said, "I can't say things I'm not sure about. I hadn't won a single match since training began, which was incredibly disheartening. What made me even more depressed was that Reynard didn't even offer a word of encouragement. He just kept saying, 'I can't say things I'm not sure about.' Those words made me feel even less confident about winning." Reynard quickly added, "But you are a fast learner." I pouted that I asked this a consolation prize after a slap in the face. I couldn't deny, though, that it made me feel a little better. Reynard smiled again and said, "You've been diligently training your physical strength, and your stamina is good too." Looking at his smiling face, I couldn't help but recall Reynard's beautiful, kind eyes. I suddenly felt a little shy. The next second, Reynard suddenly moved closer. I felt like I could hear a voice inside me shouting, telling me to stay away from Reynard, not to waver, not to fall for him. But then I thought it'll be all right. At least not now, because right now, all I care about is revenge against Noah. I need to build up the strength to defeat him, to give him a taste of defeat. That's all I have to do right now. Reynard asked with concern, "Are you tired, Elinda?" I said, "I'm fine. Let's go again." I saw Luke nearby and turned to ask Reynard, "After we're done, do you want to spar with Luke? I really want to see you two duel." Reynard asked doubtfully, "Does Luke Oscar know how to use a sword?" I thought for a moment and replied, "He probably has average skills. Actually, In the original story, Luke was on par with Noah. I thought that by watching their sparring, I could get a general feel for it. Memorizing Reynard's movements should also be helpful. Reynard, however, looked hesitant. After all, he had never fought a magic swordsman before. I whispered to him, "You'll win anyway, right?" Hearing this, Reynard gave a gentle smile. In the end, Reynard agreed to a match with Luke. I said I would watch their duel carefully. Luke was speechless. Didn't these two even bother to ask for his opinion? Serena watched their fight and couldn't help but admire. Luke is pretty good too. Watching their intense duel, Alinda recalled reading in a book that Luke had studied not only magic since childhood, but swordsmanship as well. Although he couldn't compare to Reynard, that monstrous swordsmanship genius, his attacking and defensive postures, as well as his footwork, were indeed more perfect than what was described in textbooks. Unsurprisingly, Luke lost. The whole process only took 1 minute and 30 seconds. Panting, Luke said if I were allowed to use magic, I would have one. Besides, he's just crazy, not that I'm weak. Alinda acknowledged him, telling him there was no need to explain and that they should go eat. Luke dejectedly said he needed a drink first. Alinda told him to hurry up and teleport to get some water, then come over. A moment later, Alinda looked at the soaking wet Luke with surprise. "Did you even wash your hair in such a short time?" Luke said the weather was too hot, so he splashed water on himself, shaking his head vigorously, which caused the water to splash everywhere. Alinda was speechless. That boy was definitely doing it on purpose. The day of the swordsmanship exam arrived quickly. Luke complained that because of the swordsmanship exam, his magic training had been pushed back. Alinda pointed out that the magic exam was last anyway. Besides, I'm confident in my magic. Luke muttered dismissively, "Who are you trying to impress? In my eyes, you're all the same." At that moment, Alinda was looking for the sword she had used last time. Just then, Serena brought Alinda her sword. Thoughtfully, she had even marked it with a red tag. Alinda thought Serena looked beautiful with her hair tied up. The two of them shared another moment of affection. Alinda invited Serena to go to the market after the exam. Serena asked if it would be like last time. Alinda quickly assured her it wouldn't, that I won't do anything to make things difficult for you. Suddenly, the hall became noisy. The two girls looked towards the source of the commotion. It was the crown prince entering the hall. He raised an eyebrow and gave Alinda a meaningful look. Alinda's good mood instantly vanished. "Why'd you have to look over there?" As Serena helped Alinda tie her hair, she asked if she was ready. Because Alinda had personally spoken to the professor about it last time, she was certain she would be paired with the crown prince. Serena gently pulled Alinda closer and said earnestly, "You can do it. You prepared so hard. There's no problem." Serena's words instantly boosted Alinda's confidence. Luke also commented that Alinda seemed quite confident. Alinda replied with a smile, "Maybe it's because I beat you yesterday." Luke hurriedly explained, "That's because I tripped momentarily." Serena, however, said with a smile that she didn't think so. She then told Alinda that she was first, that it's probably because you personally requested your opponent. Consider it your punishment. After all, designating your opponent isn't generally allowed. Hearing that she was going first, Alinda felt a bit of pressure, because at that time, everyone's attention would undoubtedly be the most focused. But then she thought it didn't matter. Facing Noah, she would be the center of attention regardless. Soon, the swordsmanship teacher asked if everyone was ready. After receiving an affirmative response, he began to introduce the first two combatants, Alinda Maleficent and Noah Hensley Vaughn Edmund. Hearing their names, the crowd began to murmur. The outcome of this duel is already decided, isn't it? How can a girl beat a boy? Besides, the Crown Prince has always practiced swordsmanship. The Crown Prince and Alinda politely bowed to each other. The Crown Prince looked at Alinda with disdain and said with a sneer, "I heard you personally requested this match." Alinda bluntly replied, "None of your business." Both raised their swords, ready to begin. Alinda carefully recalled the key points Reynard had taught her. You shouldn't focus on your own sword, but on where your opponent's sword will land. Don't blink, not even for a moment. Keep your eyes fixed on the sword. Focus your attention to the point where you can't hear any other sound, to the extent that you can't see anything but the sword. With a focused gaze, Alinda swung her sword with force. The Crown Prince almost missed blocking her second strike. Dodging Alinda's attack, he asked in surprise, "Do you even know how to use a sword?" Alinda ignored him. She realized that Noah's attack patterns were just like those described in the novel. And if her prediction was correct, his next attack would come from the right. The next second, her prediction proved true. Realistically, With only a few days of frantic training, Alinda didn't think she could beat Noah. Even if she could memorize all the sword techniques, she couldn't control the changing circumstances. But knowing the future was different, because it was all playing out her head. Alinda raised an eyebrow excitedly. Looks like you still have the energy to talk. Every cell in my body is screaming. You're dead now, punk. Alinda, following Luke's actions from the original story, took a slight step back. As expected, the Crown Prince charged forward prematurely. Alinda feigned a swing to the left. As the Crown Prince thrust his sword, Alinda quickly dodged to the side, knocking the sword from his hand. The entire audience was stunned. Even Serena stared in disbelief. The Crown Prince stood frozen in place. The swordsmanship instructor announced the end of the match. Alinda, Morpheus wins. The crowd erupted in cheers. Alinda looked at the Crown Prince triumphantly. Ever since winning against him in the swordsmanship exam, she had become the focus of the entire school. Everywhere she went, people stole glances at her. Listening to the students' gossip, Luke said to Alinda, knowing this, you might as well have lost him. Alinda also thought that compared to this, taunting the Crown Prince would have been more fun. Serena laughed and said, isn't that something only you can do, Alinda? Besides, mocking the loser is morally wrong. Alinda quickly agreed with Serena, admitting she misspoke. The thought of Noah soon becoming the loser was so strong that she unconsciously. Just then, Reynard walked over to, I wanted to hear it from you personally. But since everyone is talking about it, Alinda quickly said, this is all thanks to you, Reynard. I should have gone to find you first. But given the situation, Reynard expressed his understanding, adding that it was the result of Alinda's own hard work, and she didn't need to thank him. Alinda said, but if it weren't for you, I might not have even tried. Reynard asked if Alinda was feeling better now. Alinda replied, of course. I feel so much better now. Looking at Alinda's bright smile, Reynard happily said, that's great. Alinda glanced awkwardly at Serena beside her. Honestly, she was bothered by Reynard's concern, especially in front of Serena. But avoiding him would be even more awkward. It was best to just go with the flow. Just then, the bell rang. Reynard smiled at Alinda and said, see you later, before turning to leave. Alinda gave a polite smile and wave, thinking, I'm so bad at this kind of thing. I need to experience love to handle this. The next afternoon, the four of them went to the dining hall, as usual. Alinda asked, what for dinner today? Serena told her, creamy shrimp with lemon, baguette, roast turkey, and tomato salad. Luke suddenly turned and pointed to himself, saying, and Alinda's proud partner, Luke Oscar, a very handsome side dish. Alinda was speechless. Do we really have to eat that? I don't really want to accept that last one. Luke feigned hurt, ignoring my sincerity. Alinda questioned when his actions had ever included sincerity. Luke replied that he always gave his all. Alinda just laughed, saying that, yet you fell asleep during class and got detention. Luke Oscar. Luke chuckled and ruffled Alinda's hair. Why do you think I was sleepy? The teacher said it was so simple. You should have figured it out quickly, right? Hearing this, Alinda suddenly realized there were no onlookers around. She suspected Luke had erased their memories. Luke shook his head, but I didn't erase their memories. I modified them. I brainwashed everyone into thinking Alinda was always skilled at swordsmanship. Alinda asked if that was why he was tired. Luke nodded, because aside from you, Serena, and the Crown Prince, I altered everyone's memories. I'll have to fix it later, though. I didn't touch their memories outside the academy, so there will be conflicts. Alinda was baffled. How can you say something like that as casually as what's for dinner? That's exhausting, isn't it? Didn't you basically tamper with the memories of everyone in the academy from the start? Luke grinned. So what? If you're uncomfortable, I'll be uncomfortable too, being by your side. Looking at the grinning Luke, Alinda didn't know what to do with this madman. Seeing Alinda's worried expression, Luke said, if you don't like it, I can change it back. Alinda quickly replied, no, it's fine like this. But can you use your ability so casually? I mean, did you have to go this far for me? Although Luke spoke lightly, he had exhausted himself, even with his monstrous magical power. It must have been such a tiring and complicated spell. Serena patted Alinda's shoulder, reiterating, Alinda, didn't I tell you last time? We like you more than you think. If we had the same ability as Luke, we would have done the same thing. Did I overestimate our relationship? Serena's words made Alinda suddenly realize, Even though I was determined to take a different path than the original story, I've been keeping them within the framework of that story, even though they've already brought me into their circle. Realizing her mistake, Alinda quickly said to Serena, "No, Serena, I would have done the same for you." Hearing this, Serena smiled brightly. During dinner, Alinda sighed in relief. No classmates are chasing after me anymore. I can finally breathe. She then asked Luke, "Why didn't you just alter their memories when you were a royal magician?" Luke stuffed food into Alinda's mouth and said, "You were just asking me why I had to go so far." Chewing her food, Alinda replied, "Because I've decided to accept your kindness towards me. I can't accept all of it, but this much is okay, right?" Hearing this, Luke said, "If you can accept this much kindness, then you can accept almost all of it, can't you?" Alinda quickly said, "No, it's different. The other kind." Alinda could only accept kindness within the boundaries of friendship. Although this mindset might change someday, at least that's how she felt now. However, if the story changed and she didn't have to die when her death date arrived, then if the other person felt the same way, of course, Serena's choice would always come first. Serena, seeing Alinda staring at her, curiously asked, "What are you thinking about?" Alinda reached out and touched Serena's face, "That I'm wondering what you eat to be so beautiful." Serena blushed, smiling and saying, "I often think the same thing when I look at you." Hearing this, Alinda happily asked, "Really? I'm honored." Luke sighed in exasperation. "I occasionally wonder how long I have to endure you two exchanging compliments." Alinda tilted her head and smiled. "What? Do you want me to compliment your beauty too?" Luke said with a narcissistic air, "You don't have to tell me. I'm always beautiful." Reynard, sitting beside them, told him to be quiet. Luke glared at Reynard. "You've been quiet this whole time. Why speak now?" Reynard replied, "Instead of talking nonsense, it would be better for everyone if you just shut up." Then, ignoring Luke's muttering, he asked Alinda with concern, "That person won't hurt you, will he?" Alinda was stunned for a moment, then realized he was referring to Noah. "Why would he hurt me?" "Because I beat him in the last practice match." Luke said, "Even if he comes, I'll throw him onto some mountain before he can do anything." Alinda replied, "While that's a nice thought, you'll be punished. If a student leaves the academy without reason, they'll contact the royal city." Then she reassured Reynard, "It's fine for now. You don't have to worry so much." Reynard asked, "Do you feel better now?" "No, I probably won't ever feel better." Reynard asked curiously, "What did the crown prince do to you?" Alinda didn't answer his question directly. Instead, she propped her head up and asked Reynard, "Do you think I went too far?" Reynard instinctively said, "You wouldn't hate someone without reason, so you must have a good reason for doing what you did. I trust you." Reynard's answer touched Alinda deeply. "It feels so good to be trusted, especially by someone I've always wanted to get closer to." Luke patted Alinda's head comfortingly. Besides, seeing what he did, it's hard to like him even if you wanted to. During the swordsmanship exam, do you know what he said to me? With a really fake, arrogant expression, Alinda imitated the crown prince, saying, "I heard you personally requested this duel." That's what he said. Luke asked how Alinda responded. Alinda said, "I told him to get lost, of course." Luke patted her head. "Good job, as expected of my partner. Actually, I don't like bad-mouthing people, but that guy's too casual with you. I really don't like it, even if he's the crown prince. He has no right to treat you like that." "Exactly. Teacher, do you know how much he's hurt me so far? Just winning against him once in the swordsmanship exam isn't enough." Luke, seeing the mischievous look on Alinda's face, asked curiously, "What are you planning this time?" Alinda's golden eyes widened. The three of them looked at him in unison, waiting for him to continue. Alinda smirked mischievously. "Does anyone want to join me in playing a little prank?" Alinda never expected that after racking their brains, the four of them could only come up with such trivial, childish pranks. Just now, Luke had suggested putting thumbtacks in Noah's shoes. Alinda immediately vetoed it. "That's too obvious. He'll know it was me." Serena suggested telling him the wrong classroom when they changed rooms for class. However, since we're not in the same class as the crown prince, that probably won't work. Reynard, ever the simple one, suggested, "Can't we just bump into his shoulder and say sorry?" "I'll do it." Wasn't he afraid of getting into trouble? Having no other options, Alinda said, "Let's get together later and think about it." Serena suggested meeting in her room, like last time. Alinda agreed, but then turned and scolded Luke. "Absolutely no cross-dressing this time. It would be faster for you to just teleport here." Luke started to retort, but under Alinda's glare, he quickly backed down. Alinda then pointed at Luke and emphatically stated, "And absolutely no ghost stories this time, Luke." Luke chuckled. "Why? Were you so scared last time that you couldn't sleep? The teacher said that after you left. Elinda's voice trailed off, as if she'd remembered something. A moment later, a smile spread across Elinda's face. She turned to the others and said, I just had a brilliant idea. That night, under the dark, moonless sky, the entire academy was silent. The sound of footsteps echoed. It was the Crown Prince. Earlier that day, Elinda had threatened to break off their engagement unless he met her in the plaza. The Crown Prince nervously looked around. He couldn't understand why Elinda had chosen this location. He casually glanced behind him, and the sight nearly made him jump out of his skin. A semi-transparent figure stood behind him. The figure slowly drifted towards the Crown Prince, then pointed towards a fountain. The Crown Prince cautiously approached the fountain. The fountain was overflowing with blood. The gruesome scene sent chills down the Crown Prince's spine. Suddenly, a voice whispered in his ear. The Crown Prince screamed and, in his panic, fell headfirst into the fountain. When he struggled to sit up, he saw that the person behind him was Elinda. Elinda looked at the soaked Crown Prince and burst out laughing. Even if the weather is getting warmer, you can't play in the fountain at night. The next day, the ghost story spread like wildfire. The teacher scolded them that I've heard that unsettling rumors have been spreading around the academy lately. In the National Edmund Academy, where the brightest minds in the empire gather, do people still believe in ghost stories? You should be using that time to prepare for tomorrow's exam. Frankly, your grades are probably scarier than any ghost story. Serena and Elinda whispered to each other that it seems to be because of what happened yesterday. Elinda had provided the script, Luke, the director, had made Reynard invisible, and Serena had been the audience. The four of them had worked together seamlessly. The teacher, hearing them still talking, raised his voice. Stop spreading rumors. Focus on your studies. Luke had been sleeping all day, exhausted from using so much magic. Luke groggily heard someone calling his name. Turning, he saw Elinda looking at him and gave her a sleepy smile. Elinda assumed he was still half asleep, but then Luke mumbled, "Why is it so quiet in here?" Elinda told him that Professor Flora had come by and told them not to believe in silly ghost stories and to focus on their studies. Luke said it was just a joke. Does anyone actually believe that stuff? Elinda nodded in response then, couldn't resist reaching out and stroking Luke's hair. Perhaps it was because of her newfound masculine revenge, but Elinda thought his hair felt amazing. This makes me feel weird, like I've become a cherished pet. Elinda chuckled and told Luke to meow for her. Luke sighed. Can you please stop treating me like a pet? Elinda immediately offered a bribe, promising to buy him his favorite bread later. Luke instantly transformed into an adorable puppy, then asked Elinda what else she wanted him to do. Elinda replied, I don't want you turning into a scary mongrel. Luke took the opportunity to grab Elinda's hand and act cute. Cute things combined with cute things become even cuter. Unexpectedly, in the next second, Elinda pinched his cheek, telling him to wake up and that they should go pick up Reynard. Upon hearing this, Luke grumbled, asking if Reynard couldn't come to them since there were 3 of them. Elinda explained that Reynard was already upset about being separated from them, so they shouldn't make him do it again. And so, the 3 of them went to pick up Reynard, chatting and laughing along the way. Serena mentioned that tomorrow, half of the exams would be over. Elinda asked Serena if she had decided what she wanted to do for the break. In the original story, Serena was chosen as a scholarship recipient and went to the Imperial Palace for a few weeks of observational study. However, perhaps because she hadn't interacted with Noah, this time, Serena didn't apply to visit the Imperial Palace. Elinda found it a bit strange. During this period, the Crown Prince and Serena should have run into each other a few times. Haven't the 2 of them sensed anything from each other yet? Serena said that she personally wanted to go traveling, but she was a bit tight on money. Hearing this, Elinda patted her chest and said, I have plenty of money, but Serena refused. Serena asked Elinda if there was anywhere she wanted to go. Elinda looked up at the sky and sighed helplessly, I'd like to go somewhere, but I feel like my family wouldn't allow me to travel. Of course, if I didn't go, just because I wasn't allowed, that wouldn't be me. If I suddenly disappeared, they'd definitely be furious and come looking for me. But not because they're worried about me. They're just worried about the connection to the royal family. At that moment, Elinda really wanted to break off the engagement and be kicked out of the house. Freedom was so close. If she had known it would be like this, she would have been more proactive about breaking off the engagement. At this point, Luke noticed Elinda's distress and suddenly asked her, do you want to leave? Elinda said Luke startled her. Luke pressed again, don't you want to go home? Elinda silently nodded. Honestly, who would want to go back to that kind of home? Anyone in my position would want to run away immediately. In that house, aside from Aang, no one is on my side. There, I'm completely expendable. But Luke said, if that's the case, I have an idea. Why don't you intern at Moda during the break? You can also go outside of Modu on the weekends. Just then, the Crown Prince hurriedly walked over, interrupting their conversation. Elinda was speechless. Doesn't this guy ever get tired of this? Seeing the Crown Prince staring intently at them, Elinda abruptly stepped in front of Serena. Did the Crown Prince only just now start noticing Serena? Even if I get sand in my eyes, you're absolutely not allowed to touch Serena, you brat. But the Crown Prince seemed indifferent to Serena and told Elinda he wanted to talk to her. What's with this reaction? Could it be he really doesn't like Serena in this lifetime? But that wasn't the issue. As long as they were still at the same academy, Noah could be captivated by Serena at any moment. Before that happened, breaking off the engagement was in her best interest. Even with Moda's protection, there wasn't much they could do until she broke off the engagement. First, the dying thing has been resolved. Now, let's get rid of Noah. Thinking this, Elinda scoffed at the Crown Prince. Aside from swimming in the fountain in the middle of the night, you look pretty healthy. I thought you'd at least catch a cold. Hearing her bring that up, the Crown Prince demanded, you haven't told anyone else, have you? Elinda gestured to the two behind her. At least these two have already heard. The Crown Prince gritted his teeth in frustration. A moment later, he said, I didn't come here for that. I came to inform you of something. I'm not sorry. No, actually, I'm not sorry at all. I won't listen to orders from someone weaker than me. If you want to inform me of something, beat me first. At Elinda's taunt, the Crown Prince took a deep breath, trying to compose himself. Then he told Elinda, this is a message from His Majesty the Emperor. Elinda Mallerfeasant, remain at the Imperial Palace during the break to receive education befitting the next Empress. Hearing this, Elinda was momentarily stunned that in the original story, it was because you were afraid I'd get in your way that you isolated me first. Now, you have no interest in Serena at all. Elinda nudged Luke with her elbow. Luke immediately understood. He put his arm around Elinda's shoulder, smiling as he said to the Crown Prince, he already promised me he'd be interning at Modi during the break. Then, to the Crown Prince's astonishment, he cast a teleportation spell. Elinda took Serena's hand and said triumphantly, so, please tell His Majesty the Emperor that if he wants to get me out of there, he'll have to get permission from the Lord of the Magic Tower. Though he won't agree. When Reynard heard about this, he worried if Elinda would be all right after refusing the royal order. Elinda explained that it was fine. The royal family and the Moda Tower had a treaty. Since she had made a prior agreement with the Moda Tower, they couldn't do anything. She could escape from home, didn't have to go to the palace, and could even intern at the Magic Tower. Elinda couldn't help but think this would be the perfect vacation. Then, Elinda took out a notebook and told Reynard to memorize the highlighted parts. It was the only way he could avoid failing. Afterwards, he asked Luke what the internship actually entailed. Luke leaned back casually and said with a smile that although it was called an internship, there wasn't much to do. He had saved a spot specifically for her because he knew she didn't want to go home. Elinda couldn't help but tease, our Luke has quite a bit of power. You're just realizing that now? If I wanted to, I could even assign you one of the smaller weaving houses under the Moda Tower's jurisdiction. Elinda immediately refused, saying she preferred a more peaceful and steady life. Luke seemed puzzled. Isn't exciting and long life better? Isn't bossing people around better? Elinda laughed. Bossing you around is enough for me. Luke was momentarily speechless. Oh, you were bossing me around after all. Reynard, however, was only concerned with one question. Does this mean Elinda will be staying at the Modu Tower for the entire break? Just as Elinda was unsure how to answer, Luke interrupted their conversation. He said they could go outside the Moda Tower on weekends and asked Elinda if there was anywhere she wanted to go. Anywhere was fine. Even though it was illegal, they could even go abroad. Hearing that she could go abroad, Elinda was shocked. She had never been out of the country in her life. Since they could go to those places, Elinda asked Luke, could we also save alt? Could I also listen to songs on a Phoenix Tail boat? Luke immediately replied, of course. What about the night market festival in Maine? Luke said, is that even a question? Elinda was instantly thrilled to be able to teleport such a long distance. That's amazing. Elinda couldn't help but exclaim excitedly, oh my God, you're incredible. Serena was surprised. She had always assumed that Elinda, as a duke's daughter, would frequently travel abroad. Elinda turned to Serena and said, No, I've never been. Because since this novel began, I've been stuck in a time loop. Serena caressed Elinda's face and said, I want to travel with you too. Elinda replied without hesitation, with Luke, we should be able to bring you along too, right? Luke sighed helplessly that you're treating me like some convenient mode of transportation. Wouldn't it be nice if we all traveled together? Would that tire you out? Not at all. If you want it, of course I'll make it happen. Elinda said uncomfortably, I'm really grateful, but you're not the type to say things like that. Luke gave an awkward laugh. Actually, I got goosebumps myself right after I said that. At that moment, Serena told Luke that she also wanted to visit and study at the Moda Tower someday. Luke asked in surprise why. Because I want to see Elinda. It wouldn't be bad to be able to visit her in person occasionally. Sure, there's no reason why not, but I can't pick you up. You know where the tower is, right? Elinda suddenly remembered that the Motu Tower was located at the very edge of the empire. As an intern, she could use teleportation, but for an ordinary person like Serena, it would take 2 days by carriage. Elinda worried that it would be too dangerous for Serena to come alone. Suddenly, Reynard, who had been silent, spoke up. What if she wasn't alone? Elinda asked, Are you sure you're okay with that? Carriage rides can be quite uncomfortable. Reynard smiled. If your stamina is that bad, how are you going to use a bow in the future? And so, they happily made their plans. With only a few hours left until the vacation ceremony, there was one piece of good news and one piece of bad news for Elinda. The good news was that Reynard had successfully avoided failing. The bad news was that her Duke father didn't approve of her interning at the Moda Tower during the break. He said, His Majesty the Emperor personally gave the order. And besides, you'll become Empress in the future anyway, so why bother going to the Moda Tower? From the beginning, a girl saying she wants to do something, the Duke's attitude greatly displeased Elinda. So she kicked over the table in front of her. Then she defiantly told the Duke, If I wanted to, I could burn this house down. Elinda's attitude infuriated the Duke. You dare threaten your father? I see you don't care that I cut off your allowance, do you? Elinda calmly replied, This might be a good opportunity for us to sever our father-daughter relationship. Although Elinda meant what she said, the Duke likely felt that Elinda still had value to him. So, early this morning, he sent a letter. The letter stated that His Majesty the Emperor said it would be a good opportunity for her to interact with the Moda Tower. Serena asked Elinda how she was feeling. Elinda sighed dejectedly and said, It's just, things aren't going as smoothly as I'd hoped. I don't know what it is, but you don't need to rush. We're just getting started, aren't we? Elinda thought Serena was right. She didn't need to rush. Even if I only earn a little back, the result is still good. That's enough. Serena clung to Elinda, saying, Even though we can see each other every weekend, the thought of not seeing someone I see every day, even for a short time, makes me a little sad. Elinda replied, I'll miss you too. Watching their reluctant parting, Luke couldn't help but tease. Anyone would think you were graduating. This is our first break since enrolling. Luke's words reminded Elinda that they had only talked about having fun. Elinda asked Serena, Do you have any goals you want to achieve during the break? Luke said he wanted to finish the research he hadn't completed before enrolling. Reynard, needless to say, would definitely be training. He planned to master magic during the break. Elinda thought Serena would want to do something more constructive, but unexpectedly, Serena said, This break, I just want to relax. Travel with you. Visit and learn things in Moda. Won't the break be over quickly that way? Elinda immediately clapped her hands and said, That can be considered a goal too. Serena's idea is great. Luke looked on, speechless that you're really going out of your way to accommodate her. He then teased Serena, Since you've decided to relax, don't come to Moda. Get a good rest. There's really nothing to see here anyway. Serena retorted, then how boring it would be for Elinda, stuck in Modu with nothing to see. Watching them bicker, Elinda suddenly realized something strange between them. They were like close friends who had known each other for a long time. Although she treated Luke the same way too. Just then, Serena suggested to Elinda it would be nice to take a weekend trip near the capital. There's a festival during the break. So they agreed, I'll go around there on the day of the festival. Elinda thought about asking Aina about good restaurants near the capital when she got back. After the closing ceremony, Luke urged Elinda to pack her bags and leave quickly. But Elinda remembered she hadn't properly said goodbye to Reynard. You don't need to say goodbye to him. And Serena, what are you doing here? Aren't you going home?